3, 2, 1 based on, yeah, we're live.
3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Yes, absolutely. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is Corey Poirier with Blue Talks and my
Elise.
Yeah, I was going to say my co-host Elise Rothman with Flip Your Script. It's been over a month, I guess, since we did one of these. So it's cool to be finally back in the, what's the quote that you say, back in the saddle? I don't know if that's politically correct anymore. I'm not sure.
Ooh, I don't even know what that means anymore.
Well, people say back in the saddle again, but I guess it relates to horses, like back in the horse saddle. But my point is I don't know what's politically correct in that. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
You know what? We can create whatever we want here. That's all about creating your own script. It's a perfect intro to the entire week. So we're back in the saddle. We're here. We're live. We're super excited. And I want to just say, hey, because I haven't seen you or really connected with you in since our last event.
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to definitely jump right in, but I want to also say to make space for the fact that the reason that's happened is because last time around, you were telling us about the retreat that you and Elliot had just jumped into. And the few times we have chatted really briefly, you've been just swamped.
What I would love to do maybe one of the days this week is go on my phone and take you all on a tour, just a little mini tour. We have so much creating going on right now, right outside our door. Our 5 suites, this is the 5th suite that will be up and running today. So all 5 suites are running. We have been full capacity. People are coming from all over the country and all over the world, really, because we got Canada too. And people are super enjoying being on the Wiki Watchy, swimming with the manatees, hanging out by the campfire, get some Flip Your Script coaching going on. Everybody gets a band in their welcome packet when they come. And we have children and families and couples and single people that are just traveling. We have a couple right now that's actually boondocking with their newly renovated van. They've been traveling in a van for 2 years. They're called the Rolling Rogans, and they stopped by. So they're parked out front. We have a work camper who's from Colorado. She's been RVing for the entire year, and she's here now for 2 months to help us manage and revive the place. Or she's a vibe enhancement specialist. We have vibe enhancement specialists here, and I train them. I'm a vibe enhancement specialist trainer now, Corey. I don't know if you've gotten the update. We have a guy out front who's building a bamboo privacy fence, all out of bamboo right now. We have a guy who's building our furniture out of a tree that we actually had to have taken down, and we have benches, and there's just so much happening here. It's so exciting, and we are opening up for retreats. So any of these thought leaders, any of our amazing guests that want to host a unique retreat for about 15 to 20 of their people, come here. We'll have an entire week. We'll set it up for you. It'll be all inclusive. You can just rent the space and host your own retreat, or we can collaborate. So I'm trying to get it all in, because there's just, if you only knew what's going on right outside this green wall right now.
So, I mean, I want to bring on our guest right away, but I just have to ask you one more quick thing about that, at least.
Sure.
Is why, so with COVID and how it slowed down travel for a bit, and now you're basically just full right up. Is it because, is it because people now are feeling more comfortable traveling again and all that kind of stuff? Or, because you said it's coming from all over, it's not just local. So have you heard any buzz or words as to why that's happening now?
Well, there's a couple of reasons why. So we're very unique. We have 5 private, fully equipped suites. So we have kitchens and kitchenettes. You have a private entrance when you come in, and then you have a private entrance to the back. So all of the socializing and meeting new people happen outside by the campfire, grilling outside, doing night kayaks. We just took our guests on a full moon kayak, and there was a roost of egrets. It's mind-blowing. So I believe that the way that we're set up is that we're climate friendly. We're honoring that you come with your group and you have your own kitchen, kitchenette, your own private space, and then you can go out into the open space and socialize. But the other thing too is that we're in Florida. We're in Wiki Watchy, Florida. It's Manatee Landing Retreat, if anyone's interested in looking us up on social media. And so Florida has been a little bit different as far as our rules and regulations. And because there's a lot of people outside. The Wiki Watchy is all about kayaking and boating. We're like the adventure coast. So everything's outdoors. You want to bike, you want to hike, you want to kayak, you want to boat, you want to fish. And so there's a big draw to come here, hang out at the beach. And so it's very outside and outdoor friendly. And I believe that that also has a lot to do with people coming. We just had a group from Michigan. We have a family here from New York City right now. We have people from Portland, Oregon, and Tennessee, and North Carolina, and Wisconsin. And so we're here, and we can be your home away from home when you come and visit us.
I love it. Well, like I said, I'm mainly curious. And having said that, so that we bring on our next guest on, we can dive into, I can dive into some of the Blue Talk stuff a bit later. If you're here, you're going to learn about Blue Talks anyway. So
right.
I'm going to bring our guest on, and then we'll dive into Blue Talks in between the next guests. So
Perfect.
First of all, let's bring on our guest, Trish Bennet. Really excited to have you here with us, Trish. And you got a chance to meet Elise backstage. Trish, what we usually like to do, how we start this off, is to get you to tell us a little bit about your backstory, rather than us reading a bio, and just to get to know you a little bit better. And I always say to people, don't worry about how much or how little, because we're going to dive in deeper anyway. So just whatever you want to share about your backstory.
We will dive in deeper.
Sounds great. Well, first, thank you so much for having me on this platform. I'm so excited to be here. So yes, my name is Trish Bennet. I'm the founder of a passion project called Build Yourself Back Up. It's a platform that I'm using to speak about mental health. I personally struggled with depression for 25 years of my life, and it took a lot of my life to get it back on track. And what I want to do is get out and speak more about mental illness and show others that you can get out of the depths of depression and build yourself back up.
You don't even look old enough to have 25 years of depression.
No.
I'm just telling you that right now. So whatever you're doing right now is working, girl.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Like, did she start at 2?
Did I? No, I started at 13 was when I knew. 13 was when I knew that I was not okay. I was really sad and was having the uncomfortable thoughts about my future.
Wow.
I'm trying to do the math in my head, but it's not important.
I'm 38 years old.
Well, you look fantastic.
Thank you.
I had done the math in my head, and I was going to say you don't look 38 at all. So there
no?
you go.
Wow.
No.
Thank you.
I feel like, well, I mean, we'll go there, but I was going to say, like, for me, people always ask me, like, because I get told I don't look my age a lot, and I'll take that as a compliment. So I'm 45. And when people say that, and Shelly, my girlfriend, she hears the same thing, but I always say it's because I take vitamin P every day. And so for those of you who don't know what vitamin P is, vitamin P for me is what I call passion and purpose. It's basically, I say the vitamin you can't buy in any store, but it's probably the most powerful vitamin you'll ever take, which is that when you found your purpose, i.e. your why, you're going to in my opinion, and this is what I've experienced, you're not going to age the same as somebody who hasn't. And I hate to be that bold with it, but you think their why. And look at them all. We're like, how are they still not looking their age? And of course, you could make the argument that some might be using plastic surgery, but there's a lot of male actors, like Clint Eastwood is an example. I mean, he's looked 80 since he was 20, but he hasn't aged since he was 20.
Yeah.
But I mean, but a lot of these actors were like, how is that person 10 years older now? And, I'm talking the ones that aren't even with plastic surgery. And I think it's because actors have found their calling. Most actors love what they do. So that's just a side note. But I think when you found your purpose, this is a side note for people. Take your vitamin P. If you found your purpose, which again is your vitamin P, it'll make all the difference in the world. You won't be as sick as often. You won't have colds as often. People say, I love being around you. You always seem to be full of energy as often. So I just want to add that in. So at least I'll let you jump in.
I know, because I just want to add one little thing, Trish, and then it's back to you. So I hear what you're saying, Corey, and I get that. But I also get where Trish is coming from, because a lot of my clients that I coach are also not even recognizing that it's possible to have a purpose. So it's one thing that once you know that it's possible, that there's a purpose for you and that you have value and you can connect your value to purpose, that's like a step even before that. So I just want to honor the fact that when you're in a state of like, not even really wanting to be in the pain anymore. Purpose is a concept that seems unattainable to a lot of people. And so I think it's important to know that we all have the potential to recognize that we have a purpose, but it's getting there is one of the first steps. And I don't know your opinion on that, Trish, but I welcome your opinion on that.
Well,
I absolutely agree on both. I think that when you find your purpose, you just go forward in life. You feel healthy, you feel vibrant. And when you feel that, your body becomes that. But you're right, Elise, you have to get through the dark days to find the bright moments and the future that you're supposed to live.
Yeah, so I just want to like shout out to people who are in a state of, just not recognizing that yet, or I call it out of alignment from their value and their purpose, that it's okay. It's all part of the journey and the process, but there is, it is a journey. So just letting you all know that it's okay if you don't know it and you don't have it yet, you're still okay.
Well, and to add to that, because I don't want to leave it, of course, untouched, let's say, it's a great point because I just jumped in and gave sort of the end game answer. But my book is called The Book of Why and How. The book is dedicated to what you're talking about, Elise. Like it talks about how until my mid-20s, I fought anxiety, hypochondria. I shared this here many times, but battled hypochondria for 2.5, 3 years, fought anxiety generalized for 2.5, 3 years, so almost 5 years of my life. And until I was in my mid-20s, I didn't even know there was such a thing as passion or purpose or anything. I didn't even know what the words meant, to be honest.
Right.
And I hadn't even heard the word passion, which is strange to me, until my mid-20s. And so having said all that, I didn't know what that meant either. And I discovered it through stand-up comedy, which turned into me discovering speaking, which was my passion, which helped me find my purpose. But I wrote a book on it because of the fact that I knew for those 20-some years, that was even a glimpse of my mind. So just to back up what you said, I'm going to 100% agree as well that there is multiple steps, at least one, but probably multiple steps before you get to there. I just want people to know that I didn't know, and I'm sure same with maybe all three of us, but I didn't know what it felt like or what it could feel like, and I didn't know what I was missing. But now that I do know, I want people to know there is something out there that can make you feel like this is why I'm here.
Yeah, and even with purpose, we still have moments. I always say I didn't get a get out of being human free card because I know what I know. I am still human. I still have old tapes that sort of creep up sometimes, old files that I thought I deleted or weeds that I thought I pulled, and they still show up. So it's okay. It's just becoming aware.
Yeah.
And so, Trish, this is probably an important follow-up to that right away. Is how did that happen for you? So in other words, you talked about what happened to you and where you were at, and then now you're not there now. So, or from what you said,
like how did you build yourself back up, girl? That's what we want to know.
Well, the first step, honestly, was finally acknowledging that I was depressed, which was the hardest. One of the hardest steps was saying, okay, girl, like we've got some stuff going on here and we need to fix it. So when I realized that I was suffering with depression, I sought help. I got a counselor and I started working through my stuff, all of my feelings. And I didn't realize that I was going to be opening up a can of worms when I started addressing my stuff. It really just exploded. I went through a huge phase of healing and writing and crying. That was at the beginning of a divorce. So I did have a pivotal moment that in my life where things changed completely on me. I was a stay-at-home mom when I left my husband. I had no job. I had moved my kids and I into a friend's place, and that was my moment. That was my rock bottom, and I knew the only way I was going to get out of here was to build a pathway and climb it out. And so when I got to that point, I was using tools and techniques that were actually helping me become a better person or helping me think better thoughts or even show up better for family and friends. And when I started taking those tools, the ones that worked for me, I kept incorporating them in other areas of my life. And I would read more books and I would do more podcasts and listen and just take and absorb all the information. And when it resonated, I applied it. And when it worked, I kept going. And I would say that it took me a solid 3 years to get from the lowest point to a point where I could actually get out of bed, shower, eat without it being a struggle and start my day off right.
So,
well, welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think the takeaway there too, Trish, is that it may not be a quick fix. It may not be an overnighter, but it is worth it. And before I get too far into this, I want to mention one thing I usually mention off the top. For those of you watching, listening, if you have any comments, if you have questions for Trish, please feel free to post them in the comments below. Also, your comments, it's a double win because we typically do draws for books, and it's usually from the people who commented, or if you share it and put a comment, we usually draw books there. But the bigger part of that is if you have questions for Trish, please put them now so that way at the end of the interview we can pose them to Trish. But to circle back to what you just said, Trish, yeah, I mean, I love the fact that you said it wasn't overnight. Now, for me, and I'm not going to make this about me, I'll just say it, for me, it was a lot quicker. And I think it's because I discovered my passion basically overnight. And so it wasn't that everything dissipated overnight or disappeared overnight, but it started quickly. And of course, I was dealing with something different. I think depression and anxiety are two opposite ends of the spectrum. My thing was I was fidgety all the time. I couldn't sleep well. I was like, go, go, go. Whereas I know, obviously, my past girlfriend, I was dealing with anxiety and she was dealing with depression, and it was challenging.
Yeah.
Because her side was she was struggling to get out of bed. My challenge was staying in bed. I was like doing flipping cartwheels and I couldn't slow down. So I think it's important to recognize too what you're going through, and perhaps anxiety. I don't know, but maybe anxiety, if you find, well, I don't even know. I don't want to speculate in that. So I'll just say that, I'm glad you put that out there, because some people might think, well, I tried for 3 days to meditate and I don't feel better yet. And I love that you said it took time from the lowest of the lows to get to even just where you felt, there's a reason I'm here.
Absolutely.
Love it.
And now you're helping others find their way.
And you know what? That's my passion. And when I found it, like Corey said, like things completely changed for me. I felt like I could get out of bed and start a day off right. I would make my bed, I would shower, I would eat, I would get out. And not only that, I was coming home at the end of my day at work and still going and wanting to do more. And that's exciting to me. And I think Corey's right. Like, we have to mention that it's not overnight. Dealing with mental health is something that you have to work at and become better with. I don't necessarily think there's cures for it. I think there's ways to manage it. We always will have emotions. It's, can we manage them? Can we handle the hard situations? How do we do it? We're always going to have our ups and downs. It's how we get through it.
Right. And becoming aware, like recognizing, okay, this is how I'm feeling. So what is it that I'm perceiving and looking at that's showing up in this light? And how can I now, this is the whole flip your script concept. How can I flip my script and say, okay, so this is an analogy that came up here at Manatee Landing Retreat. You know, I always get these downloads and I'm like, oh my God, that was a good one. I'm just going to like write that down. So can I use the word shit?
Yeah. No, you can't. We're live.
Crap.
That's the best way to do it.
Crap. We'll use the word crap.
Well,
Sorry.
Just to ask the question, and now you've said it, so yes, you can.
Okay, so when you fertilize your garden, right? Like all these things that you want to grow in your life, you use cow dung and you use like horse manure, right? You use the crap to fertilize and grow this incredible garden in your life, right? So we have all this crap that shows up in our life because it just kind of does. And when we look at it, it's stinky and it's yucky. So if we use the crap to recognize what we do want and then fertilize what we do want with the crap. So when you flip your script, you say, this is what I don't want. I wouldn't plant these seeds in my garden, but I can use the crap to fertilize the seeds that I do want to have grow. And we can use it as an opportunity to say, if I know that I don't want this, what is it that I would prefer?
Yes.
Like, what is it that maybe I would enjoy a little bit more? You don't have to dive in and grow your whole garden, just one little seed of thought, right? And so I love that analogy. Just use the shit in your life to fertilize the stuff that you want to grow.
Yeah. And you need duality to know what you like and what you don't like. So when you sit in the crap, then you're like, okay, this doesn't feel good. So what does feel good? And then you go out and you figure it out. And for me, I tried a lot of different things to figure out what worked for me. And I had to deal with the thoughts of failure, but that was another mindset thing. It's not failure, it's experience. Everything in life is opportunity if we choose to view it that way. So when I changed my mindset and said, okay, me getting stuck in traffic and being late for this appointment, it's an opportunity for patience. All right, I'm going to take this moment for that. So I think that's another thing too, is you got to see that what you're dealing with isn't to hurt you or harm you. It's to actually make you better.
Yes. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's like the perspective, like how are we viewing it? Because it's the perspective that's the reality.
Yeah.
So when you shift your perspective, I put on a podcast or I put on something I want. Or Abraham Hicks is my big go-to if I'm in traffic or whatever. But yeah, it's always an opportunity. Like, look, if you didn't go through all those years of what you went through, would you have found the purpose that you have right now? Probably not, right?
Absolutely not. Well, I would have nothing to speak about.
Right.
Someone that hasn't been through it. So when I tell my story and they see my vulnerability and they see the emotions behind the actual experience and the actual hurt and pain that I went through, they're like, I know she did it because I feel it and I went through it too.
Yeah, I get you, girl. I was paralyzed at 18. So, and I've had my run of, I had an autoimmune disease that affected my peripheral nerves. So it was a slow process of becoming paralyzed, which didn't paralyze my brain and my awareness, but it physically. So it was a very, very scary experience. And I have to say, even now, like however many years later, we didn't discuss my age. So we'll just say however many years later, I still recognize moments where an old script or an old file still is kind of stuck in that drive. And I get that feeling or that fear, that not to trust your body. You talk about hypochondria, Corey, and it's not that so much. It's this trust, right? When all of a sudden you're fine and then your body starts to shut down, that's an internal thing. That's like, what do you do about that? And so I even find now, but what's really interesting, Trish, is that when that happens to me, I recognize how old I am when I'm feeling that. Like I'm not my now age. I'm actually the 18-year-old or the 19-year-old. I recognize the shift in me when certain feelings come up when they're old. And I'm like, she's still around. She hasn't gotten the update that we're all good now, So having a conversation where they're going, hey, look around, look what we're creating. Like we're okay. We've made it from there to here. Yeah. So, I still experience moments where, I'm like, oh, really?
Yes. Well, at the beginning of my healing, I heard the expression that we're like onions. We're just going to peel back the layer after layer. And so when I thought that I had finished a layer of healing, I'm like, I'm so good. Everything feels good. And then a week later, I get hit with another trigger and I'm like, what's going on? And so, like there are moments where I will have a trigger through my kids because the age that they're at, I experienced something that wasn't so great. And then all of a sudden, boom, I'm in that moment when I was 9 years old and I'm trying to heal something for 20 years ago.
Yes, but it's great because they're a mirror. You get all these like little mirrors that show up and it's awesome. And another thing too, is I was speaking with Sue, what's her last name? Cardone? Susan. She works with parents, conscious coaching with parents.
Okay.
Oh, I don't remember her last name. Sorry, Susan. Sue. I'll go look at it. But anyway, so we talked about that because that's another thing too that happens when we as adults go through a process growing, and then we look at our children and see them going through something, and I did this. I tended to project how I thought I would feel if I was him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if I was 8 and I was going through that, I would certainly be hurt or sad or scared, but that wasn't his experience. I was kind of projecting my 9-year-old experience or my 8-year-old experience. So as a parent, when you become aware like you are, it's a gift for the child because you won't be projecting your trauma and your experience on them. You recognize that it's the little girl in you.
Exactly. And every child, the way that they experience and express it's so different than when we are adults. So when we see what we used to experience, it was much bigger. Sometimes it's just much bigger than it really was, but the feeling of it, the experience is still that heavy.
Right. Exactly. Go ahead, Corey. It's all you.
No, I was just going to add a couple of comments that we had as we're talking through this. One of them, people that will hear this name will know that she's my mother. And so Nancy Doucette, she put, I'm bipolar and I've suffered mental illness since 1986 without a relapse. So this subject is of interest to me. And so I want to just add, because this is maybe something that could help somebody. I've shared this story before on here, in fact. And Trish, one thing I want to make sure we ask you too is about some of the things you practice outside of, you mentioned learning and, feeding your mind and stuff like that. I want to ask you about some other things that you may have done. But with my mother, one of the things I've shared this story, and it's so powerful to me, but she went into, now this is separate from her bipolar, but she had cancer for a number of years. And she went into her cancer doctor, and he wrote her a prescription and on a piece of paper. And basically the prescription was, don't watch or read the news. And when we talked to him about it, he said that the patients that he had had the stronger chance of basically conquering cancer was the ones that didn't watch the negative news on a regular basis. And so the other side, it's hard for us to think about it, as you said, when we're in the bubble, but I feel like there's actually strategies and things we can do, and it might be harder to do them. For example, meditation might be harder when you have anxiety or depression, but I believe that you slowly, as you kind of said, hack away at it. It's a slow development. But even going on a news detox, and I've talked about this in here before, but I believe even just going on a news detox, it might not be a major difference to somebody who's struggling, but I think you'll start to see little differences. But anyway, I'd love to get your take on things that you may have done, or like, for example, meditation, or maybe even certain foods you ate, or anything that you
EFT.
did. Yeah. Or EFT that helped.
Yeah, I used a lot of tools. When I first started, writing was my first tool. I could not stop. There was a moment in time where I wrote for 2 days straight, and then I slept for 24 hours. I just got it all out. So writing was my number one tool. Talking was my second tool. And when I realized that I was starting to shed away what was no longer serving me, I was able to start seeing other things. So I tried the EFT tapping. I've done the summits. I did meditation. When I first started meditation, it went well. But then I noticed that during meditation, all the thoughts of the things that I needed to let go of were surfacing. So meditation wasn't serving a purpose of calm and peace at that time, but it was showing me the areas of my life that I needed to heal. So I used it for that. And then eventually meditation became something that I could do to step out of my body and just enjoy space and silence. Other things that I've done coaching. I did counseling. I've reached out to different programs where I did mindset work. I spent a lot of time with my mindset. What I noticed for me, it's not a quick, okay, I don't want to think that I'm not worthy anymore. I want to think that I am. I could not actually jump to one to the other. I had to take these steps. So I took a program called Feminine Power, where they taught you that you start with the I am statement, that I am not enough. And then it becomes, I'm becoming enough. I believe I'm enough. And I took those steps. And when I started believing the new I am statement, I knew I was ready for the next one to start incorporating. And eventually I'm enough. I don't even have to question it, right? Like it's now who I am. So it was all these little things that I had to do to recognize the things that I needed to change. And it just was a constant every day. And it was really a lot of inward work.
I love that easing into an affirmation. So I'm a big intention mind seeds. I've created these mind seeds for Flip Your Script. We have thought weeds that turn into belief weeds that when we pull, we can replant with mind seeds. And mind seeds are neutral. Like, I'm ready to recognize that I'm enough. You don't have to believe that, but you know that you're ready to recognize, right? And then I'm ready to feel like I'm enough. So it's about easing yourself into believing, because it's all about belief. And you can't fool yourself into believing something that we don't believe. Forget it, girl. So I'm just like, can you suspend your disbelief? You don't even have to believe it. But suspending the disbelief sometimes is just even easier to ease into. Anything's possible when I believe it is.
Yes.
And I love how they eased you into the belief. So now you can, now you believe it. And we know when we believe it. We know when we're trying to fake ourselves out. Our gut's like, you're full of crap.
Yeah.
Right. The back of the mind's going, yeah, you're looking in the mirror saying you're enough. And they're like, really? When did that happen? Because I haven't felt that like my whole life.
Yes. And not only would my mind show me, but I started to get so aware that my body would shoot off little aches and pains here and there when I would hear a thought that didn't resonate with me. And then I'd be like, oh, not only did I hear it, but my heart ached. So that is something that I need to work on. And then when I was starting to believe the good stuff, and I would hear it without actually practicing it, I would feel that energy. I know that you know what I'm talking about, the universal energy that just loves to flow through your body. So I could tell that things were changing, not only when I could hear it, but when I felt it in my body.
You know what? That's a huge awareness that many people, that's right there. That's a mind seed for everybody who's listening live or the replay. I want to make note. I want you to make note, and I welcome you to recognize that when you're in chronic pain for all these years, it's your body letting you know that you have an opportunity to recognize your value unconditionally, and something along the way has been turned into emotional plaque, and the only way that it's getting your attention is your body's letting you know. And when it hits you in a place that's really, really meaningful, that means that it's finally got your attention, because it starts as that awareness. If we all had the awareness that, oh, it's in my shoulder or in my chest or in my gut or in my throat, and we knew what that meant, we would get it right away, and we wouldn't need the big, long, drawn out diseases that we have. I have a client of mine who she's into cricket making, like making the vinyl and really cute stuff and everything. And so she uses her hands, and that's where she finds her joy. She's been in chronic pain. She's in a relationship that's really not working for her, hasn't been, she knows, ignoring, stubborn. And now her hands are shooting pain, and she can't even do what she loves. And I'm like, girl, hello. Whatever the big something is, or the universe or source or whatever it is that's getting your attention, was like, you know what? We're just going right for the source.
Yep.
Now you can't ignore it. You can ignore the neck pain for 20 years. You can ignore this, your IBS for 15 years. You were good at like just living with that, but you're not going to live without the ability to create.
Absolutely. And I personally suffered with ulcerative colitis for about 8 years. And when I started clearing away my depression, my colitis left. I haven't been on medication for over 4 years. And I was told that if I were to clear it away, I would not live with it. And I didn't believe it at first. And now I am a full believer. And it's incredible. If you get all of that out of your body, everything else just leaves.
Well, it's a physical, energetic manifestation of emotional and mental hygiene that is waiting to be attended to. Yeah. And it builds, I believe, an emotional plaque. So I'm an EFT practitioner, and I use a recognize, release, and then restore the limiting beliefs and where the mindset. So the EFT helps you get in. I call it dental floss for emotional plaque. Because where the plaque builds up, it starts to manifest in disease. So it becomes resistant, full, heavy, weighted, and it has to go somewhere, because it's that energy that's just manifested, and we have a body and it's connected. So I love your story, Trish. I think it's so powerful for anyone that's listening who is dealing with any sort of dis-ease in a physical sense, to recognize that is just your inner child, your inner wisdom, letting you know and trying to get your attention, but it just isn't screaming it in your ear.
Yes, exactly.
I'll add in too. I'm just going to mention another comment here, and then I want to tell you guys about something that I don't, as we said before on here many times, I'm not a big coincidence person. I believe, if anything, it's a meaningful coincidence. In other words, a synchronicity. But first of all, Leanne mentioned or commented, absolutely every experience creates awareness. Thanks for sharing your story, Trish. So I just wanted to let you know, Trish, that she gave you a shout out. And what I wanted to add is it's interesting. I'm watching right now, or I was last night, Kendra Kincaid was one of our Blue Talk speakers. I was watching her talk. We're getting ready to air it. I think it's coming out in 3 weeks, I want to say. We sent out the schedule today. But her talk, she was one of the first female air traffic controllers in Canada. And she has this powerful story about her childhood and the negative voice inside her head, and how for years she didn't realize that the voice was actually lying to her. So she said for years she listened to the voice until one day she realized it's not only that it's a voice inside my head. She always thought it was herself, but she said the voice is actually lying to me. And she said that was kind of the pivotal moment. But what's neat, and it's kind of a shout out for a talk, but it's interesting we're talking about this now, and I just watched this last night, is she gives examples of 5 ladies that she interviewed and how they got rid of the negative voices. And it's not that they get rid of them, but they were able to basically counter what the negative voices were saying. So they were able to basically, like one of them, she said, faced it head on. Like, so she faced the fear head on. Another one, she said she listens to her father, like what her father would tell her, and that drowns out the voice. And so, long story short is that the other side is we do have those voices that you mentioned, but it's important to recognize, is the voice serving us or not? Is the voice even really helping us? Like, is it actually there to help us? And then what do we do with that voice? Like, how do we actually quiet that voice down? So I'm glad you brought that up because it's front of mind for me right now after having watched Kendra's talk. And so if you're listening right now, be on the lookout for Kendra's talk because she goes really heavily into this. So I just want to share that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know it's a lot to take in.
So Trish, I have a question.
Sure.
So if somebody wanted to like reach out and have a chat and maybe hear your story, share a story that's similar, where can they find you?
It's front of mind for having watched it. That's weird.
That's okay. I do have a website. It's bildyourselfbackup.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel.
Awesome. So do you do weekly lives, monthly lives? Like what can we find on your YouTube channel?
They're going to be pre-recorded videos. So it's all about mindset, depression, how to build yourself back up. And on Facebook, I post stories. I post personal stuff that's going on in my life. And I'm just going to keep expanding from there.
So it's kind of like a real-time blog.
Yes. And I've got articles on my website as well.
Awesome. Now, are you coaching one-on-one or how are you expanding on your purpose?
My goal is to become a speaker, a very well-known speaker on stage, and to share my story through that platform.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, Corey, I asked your questions for you.
Well, and so, Trish, as we start to wind down, I'd also love to ask you in terms of, when you work with people, when you're talking with people, I know we covered a lot of ground here today, but I'm curious as well, what you notice, I'm always about the common traits. So is there some common elements you notice when people are struggling with that people can be on the lookout for? At least talked about what you're feeling in your body and stuff like that. So is there a common thing or two you notice that people could be on the lookout for that you see happening with most people that struggle with mental illness?
I would say that the first sign is shutting things down, shutting people out, shutting out hobbies, maybe not being able to get up and go to work. I think starting to step away from life is your first sign because you're not wanting to live it anymore. And when you start noticing that, then I think the next step is to start asking what's going on, because there's going to be a trigger. So start asking yourself what these triggers are. What's causing you to not get out of bed? What's causing you to not want to eat, shower, feel good, talk to family and friends? That is going to be your first step. You need to start asking yourself those questions. And then going forward, if you're going to watch for it in yourself or even other people, you're going to notice the way that they interact with you. Myself, when I was suffering, if I found someone comfortable with, I would just open up. So if someone's giving you a full story, they need to talk. There's something going on and they need to talk. So, if you have the time and the space, sit there and listen. I'm the type of energy that I get strangers come up to me and they will open up about what's going on. And I just hold space for them because they need to let it out. So I think that's something to watch for. And then also the body pain, like that to me, I suffered a lot of body pain. Yes. A lot of it was in my jaw. I had TMD, and what I actually learned from that experience, that the physical, was that I had such strong blocks in my throat chakra. Your will. My ability to speak and to stand up for myself. And so when I started to stand up for myself personally through depression, and then now getting out and talking, all of that pain that I used to experience, it's going away and it's pretty much gone.
I love it.
I'd love to ask you, this is the big question, Trish, I usually ask every guest before we let them run. At least ask my other one, and that one obviously is the most common. I always ask everybody how we can connect with them further. Yeah. But the other question that I ask almost every time, and I'm just starting to bring it into the Flip Your Script events as well, is I call it the time machine question. So the time machine question is, if you could sit down in front of a younger Trish, like if you could jump into a time machine, go back and talk to that younger Trish, sit across from her and give her one or two pieces of life advice based on what you've learned in the years since, what do you think you might tell younger Trish?
Whew, I would probably hold her hands, look her right in the eyes, and tell her, just get up and try. Just get up and try.
Here, tap on your chest while you're saying that. I'm ready to like do some tapping with you so you can get it out. I could just see your energy shift when you went to your little girl.
Yeah, because when I was younger, getting up and doing anything was hard. And as an adult and suffering, that was my motto. It was like, I can't get up and eat. I'm not going to get up. And it's like, just get up and try. And now when I'm working towards this passion of mine and I get fear about, you know, doing this interview or getting on stage or doing something, I just tell myself, get up and try.
I love that. That's such great advice. And it's such great life advice. What I love about it, it goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's the baby steps. You're not telling yourself, get up and do it.
Yeah.
You're saying, just get up and try. You know, you're just trying. And it's a weird comparison, but whenever I tried stand-up comedy, before I found my true calling, when I tried stand-up comedy, I went into it saying, well, I don't have to actually get up on a stage to go to a workshop. So I went to this workshop where I learned about stand-up, and I just said, just go to the workshop. You know, so just get up and try. You don't have to actually get on a stage ever. And then whenever I got to the last week of the workshop, we were tricked into getting on a stage. And I think a part of me said, just get up and try. The worst that can happen is, you know, you bomb horribly. That's the worst. If you can accept the worst, it's all good from there. But I love that analogy. Just get up, or that advice. Just get up and try, because I think, again, it doesn't put all the pressure on get up and knock it out of the park. It's just give it a go. See what happens.
Yeah, I always do experiments. I'm like, just for the next 3 days. But I tell my clients, are you ready? I'm like, okay, listen, you already know what it feels like to be where you are. And it kind of sucks, right? So you're an expert at it. You can always go back right to where you are right now because you've nailed it. And sometimes you don't even know you're doing it. You're doing it in your sleep. You're doing it like when when you're brushing your
I don't have the volume anymore.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear Corey.
Oh, can't hear it.
muted me. There you go. I'm unmuted.
I don't know what happened.
I'm not even taking it personally. I've come so far. So I'm always like, can you do an experiment? Just for the next 3 days, I'm giving you permission, okay, to do an experiment. To just, you don't even have to know how. Just try it the way that you think that you want to do it, but you're afraid of doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Just try it. For the next 3 days, text me if you need me, whatever. And do an experiment's easy because it's temporary. Right. So I love the trying, and sometimes trying even seems too hard for some of my clients, but I'm like, it's an experiment. I said, you already got this. You've nailed this. We already know what this feels like. We know you can do it. So just do an experiment for the next 3 days and see, just become aware of how it feels. Are you afraid? What's coming up? Are you frustrated? Does it bring up old sadness? So I like the trying and the experiment because it's like temporary. I'm like, just for the next 3 hours, like we have to ease your way in, and then go back. You already got that. Nailed it. We nailed the depression. We nailed the anxiety. You nailed your chronic pain. So let's just try it the new way for just a couple of days and see how it feels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. And Trish, Leanne, who's been a good supporter of you here, put another comment saying,
I need to say hi to Leanne. I think I met her on the Rise Up Challenge. Is it Leanne Fluter? I can't see.
Nope. Leanne Pastor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Different Leanne. But hi anyway.
But Leanne said you're a great speaker, Trish. So she's reaffirming that you are a good speaker. So.
Yeah, I look forward to going on YouTube and checking out some of your stuff and hearing your story. And here's another question that I do ask. And we talked about mind seeds. So mind seeds are a little bit different than affirmations. Affirmations are like, this is the way it is, and I'm going to force myself into believing it. Too much for me. I'm not a big affirmation girl. But mind seeds are that neutral sort of way of thinking that can ease you in, like I'm ready to feel better about myself. Like, gosh, I think it would feel great to feel better about myself. So those are kind of easy. So if you had a mind seed or a seed of perspective that you could help our viewers plant in their fertile mind to help them maybe flip their internal script a little, what would it be?
I would say, and this is a bit on the spiritual side.
Go for it.
That we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So when we're in the human body, it's not our natural state. So when we make mistakes or we feel emotions or we're having a hard go, That's normal. We're actually learning to become human from a spiritual state. So go ahead and make all the mistakes you want. You're supposed to. Go ahead and try and succeed or not succeed. We're supposed to. Every path has a destination, but there's going to be so many avenues that we go down. So just try them all.
I love that. Thank you for that. I'm planting it right now in the garden that I'm growing. That's called my life.
Yes.
Awesome stuff. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure, Trish. I want to get our next speaker right on, but I would just want to honor you and support you and thank you for being so brave in terms of tackling something like this, but also helping other people do it. It's certainly an area that, a area for a lot of people. So thank you for all the great work you're doing for people and for being the person that's willing to step up and make it happen.
Hey, Corey, really quickly, what was your website again, or how can they find you? Trish?
Oh, mine?
Sorry.
bLUbackup.com.
Are you able to put that in quickly, just so when people watch the replay, they'll at least see it? And you know what, Trish, you can go in the comments underneath this live and put in all of your contact information in the comments so people can, so it'll be there like for as long as we're here.
Okay.
Well, because it's archived, so even if they go watch the replay, they can see all the streaming comments and all of your information will be in there as well.
Okay, sounds good. I will do that.
Perfect.
Awesome stuff. Thanks so much, Trish. An absolute pleasure. I appreciate you, and we'll call it a to be continued.
Thank you. You did great.
Thank you.
Crushed it.
Bye.
Bye.
So I want to bring our next guest on right away, Elise, but just a couple of comments that came in. One was from Paul Empey, who's going to be on later this week, actually. Paul said, I like this here a lot. Paul said, life is full of tests. Take them all. Celebrate the ones we pass.
Oh, I like that too. Can I ask you, where are you seeing these comments? I'm trying to find all
well, we're on so many, we're on 10 different places.
I know, but okay, we'll have to discuss this backstage because I'm just sharing to my page on Facebook and my personal page, and I'm having a hard time doing that without.
Yeah, I'm seeing some inside here, some on the page. I'm floating. And,
all right, well, you got that then.
Yeah, and Leanne said hi anyway when you said it was.
Hi anyway to you too, girl.
Awesome. Let's bring our next guest right up. Make some magic happen. Awesome stuff. Can you hear and see us, Meagan?
I can hear you. For some reason, my screen is frozen.
Oh, that's weird. You're
yeah,
not frozen.
Can you see me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's all that matters. I can hear you guys, so I'll just imagine what you're looking like.
Awesome.
Oh, so you don't see us at all?
I can see your faces. They're frozen in a very, beautiful way. So.
Oh, good. Am I smiling?
You are smiling. Both of you are, actually.
Perfect. That's awesome. Take a screenshot of that.
Right? I know. I'm this is probably the best freeze I've ever had in this kind of experience.
Sometimes I'm frozen in a not such a great way. So it's nice.
Yeah.
But you can try to hop on. I mean, you want to just try to hop on and back in. That helps.
Sure. If you guys are okay with that, let me do that quick.
Yeah, this way we can all be in the moment.
Totally. Here, 1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Awesome stuff. So Elise, I wanted to tell people quickly about talk because I didn't off top. But the short version is, I'm back too.
Mm-hmm. For me, you are.
I may have to wire in. I can hear you and see you perfectly. You're not breaking up at all. So.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yay! It's my turn not to be breaking up.
You know what? It's weird.
Are you okay now again?
Okay. I have it open on my phone to the side over here just so I can make sure if anything's going wrong, I can see it. And anyway, so I was looking over there as you were saying it, and I could see that I was frozen. So all I was going to say with Blue Talks is we do have Blue Talks book number 4 that's about to come out. So if people are wondering what's happened with that stuff, Blue Talks 4 is coming out. The videos, the speaking videos are coming out weekly. One thing that's happened since we were on here last time is Blue Talks is officially on Connect TV, which is out of Hollywood.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and what's really cool about that is it also means Blue Talks is on Apple, Roku, Amazon, Google Play, and we're also on the C-Suite Network. If you remember the guy, Jeff, who was on from C-Suite Network on a past one, I don't know if you were here with him or not, but either way, CEO of C-Suite, and so we're on there as well. So Blue Talks is on. It's approaching 10 different networks now, so good stuff.
You go, Corey. No wonder we haven't chatted in a while. Is that better?
Yes, I'm not frozen. And
You're
I can
frozen?
see you guys moving. Nope.
All right.
Not frozen.
So I should do this?
That's a beautiful one to be frozen in. And I will definitely screenshot that one, Corey.
That's funny.
Okay. Sounds perfect. So welcome, Meagan. So great to have you here today. And you may have heard with Trish, I'm not sure, but where we usually start these things off is we usually just like to get to know a little bit about the person, especially for our viewers who may be discovering them for the first time. Rather than us read a bio, I always feel it's better to get the person that just tells a little bit about themselves, and then we'll dive in deeper anyway. So don't worry about how.
Can you put her name in there somewhere?
Yeah.
Somehow our name's left.
Okay. That's weird. All right. I will try to do that. Okay, so Meagan, I'll let you take it away and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Yeah. So I am a conscious business strategist. And so basically what that is I support conscious entrepreneurs build their business with both the components of spirituality, the inner work, and the outer work, or the logistical aspects of business. And one of my favorite components of doing the work is really, how do we become more in alignment? How do we become more in that soul-filled space? Because that's where that energy of all the logistical steps is going to be most powerful. And I'll toot my own horn if that's okay. But
toot away, girl.
Right on. I was recently one of the featured thought leaders in a movie called How Thoughts Become Things, doing alongside Bob Proctor and Joe Vitale and individuals like that I actually learned from in my own journey. And yeah, here I am.
That's like super exciting. That's super exciting. I'm a bit Joe was on a I was with Juju, and we were on a conference or something like that, and Joe was there, and the whole Ho'oponopono. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. So that's like a really big thing right now in my life and for my clients. And I'm Ho'oponoponoing for all of you right now. Just everyone there. It's all the tapes going. So when you say Joe Vitale, that's amazing. So tell us a little bit about that. I want to hear about that experience.
That before I forget. Is that out now, or is that still being worked on?
It is. No, it's out. It's officially out, and we're going to be doing screenings here, like around the world, as soon as we have the opportunity, once COVID restrictions lift a little bit. But it was one of those moments. I write out my goals every single year. This was a few years back, and I learned from Bob Proctor growing up. My grandmother listened to Bob Proctor, and she would read me his books, and so he has been a huge influence in my life since I was young, all the way to this point. And so I wrote out all my business goals and my life goals. And I always throw one out there that is kind of a shot in the dark, that I have no freaking clue at all how I'm going to achieve it. And I wrote down, I want to work alongside Bob Proctor, not as a student, but as a peer. And I had gone to an event a couple weeks later, and it was one of those ones, I don't know if you guys have ever had this, where I was resisting going to the event. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to. I had all of the excuses coming up, right? Like, oh, I'm tired. Oh, well, I'm kind of behind on certain things in work. But there was something in me that kept saying, you have to go. Just go. And I went. And the event was incredible. And at the end of the event, the person that was speaking had said, I'm creating a new film, and this is what it is. These are the people I've got lined up. I'm looking for one more speaker. And so I, of course, was sitting there being like, oh no, like I can't do that. My mom, who had also come with me to the event, was like elbowing me. She's like, get up there, go meet him. So I did. I got up and I met him, and then that's where all the magic happened. So it's really all about
intention.
The next, yes. And just allowing ourselves, right, to dream and believe that it could be a possibility. Mm-hmm. We might not have any clue how, but that's like that true reality, right? Like our purpose and our potential is so limitless that when we stop creating the judgments on what we think we can do based on our past-based experiences, and we just allow ourselves to dream and be curious,
And
it's like
believe.
all of a sudden, yes, believe and feel, right? Feel it. And
yeah, absolutely. One of my big mind seeds is anything is possible when you believe it is. It's when you
I
believe
love that.
it is. Anything is possible when you believe it is. So just start by suspending your disbelief. And that's the first step. You don't even have to believe it right away. Just suspend the disbelief and show up.
You know,
Your mom's
funny,
nudging you.
right? And you know, I always go back to like child like expression, because to me, I believe that is like our true self, our true being is in our childlike expression. And I mean, I've got 2 young kids, 2 young boys.
Oh my gosh, I want whatever you all are doing to look so young. You don't even look old enough to have kids. I've become
well,
that
thank
woman.
you.
I can't even believe it. I'm her. I'm that woman. Oh my God, you look so great. You don't look old enough.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that and own that.
Take it, girl. Take it and ride it.
Totally. And you know, it's funny, like I utilize my 2 boys as like my biggest teachers right now, because they are the ones that don't have any like clouded belief systems about what's possible or what's not possible. And I still remember this to this day. My oldest, he had gotten a pillow that had a bunch of stars on it. And so every night before bed, he would make a wish on one of the stars on his pillowcase.
Oh, I love that.
And so one day he's like, Mom, I wish to meet or see a good dinosaur. And I'm like, oh no, like it's too young. He's too young to not have this experience come true. So here I am in my adult form, being so concerned about how his reality might be shifted out of this experience. So we're driving the next day, and it's just after Christmas, and there is a blow up dinosaur with a Santa hat on it. And he like jumped out of his skin almost. He was so excited and was like, Mom, I saw it. I saw a good dinosaur, and I know he's good because he's wearing a Santa hat.
Done.
And I was like,
Next.
wow. Right?
How old are your son? How old are they now? Your boys?
They'll be 5 and 7.
Oh, those
here
are like
pretty soon.
Perfect ages for like anything is possible.
Oh, I love it.
I have to add, if you saw a little thing come up on the screen, just for everybody else, as far as you tooting your horn as well, this is from the website, How Thoughts Becomes Things, and you can see in one corner is Bob Proctor, and in the other corner over here is Meagan.
Isn't that wild?
Cool,
like,
right?
That's amazing.
Yeah, this is still one of those moments that is like a game changer. Like, I still pinch myself every once in a while to be like, okay, is this my reality? This is pretty cool.
Yeah. I wonder what's on your new list.
Ooh, that's a good one. So right now I'm more so focused on the impact that I get to create. And so my new list right now, and I have no clue how it will happen.
Doesn't matter.
But
Doesn't matter. I just want to know the list.
Exactly.
We don't need to know how.
Yeah. So my one right now is I want to help 1 million women in business and transform their lives just in being in existence in theirs. So that is my big holy shit kind of goal.
It's a big, yeah, but girl, you know what? 6 degrees of separation. You help one who helps one who helps one. You can train, right? You can train people to do it and grow that. There's so many ways. I have to tell you, we have my fiance and I bought a retreat during this whole global plot twist, and I'm sitting in one of our suites right now, the one that's our newest, newly renovated suite, and we have creators right now outside. I have huge visions for what I see, and my fiance is a huge supporter. He's awesome. He's like, you got this. He's the one help me flip my script right back at me. And he's like, nice. Okay, that's a lot. When you're going to do it, how are you going to do it? We have people right now. We have local artists that are building our furniture out of a tree that we had taken down. We have local artists that are painting murals on our wall. We have somebody building us a bamboo privacy fence. We have them putting up our awnings, and like there's outside this green wall right now, there's a lot of creation happening, and I didn't know how. They just showed up. We have a couple that's been traveling for 2 years. They're the Rolling Rogans, and long story, friend of a friend of a friend of a friend who wanted us to meet. They happened to be right down the block, and something didn't work out. They've been here for 3 nights, boondocking with their van, and they're helping us revive the space. Like it's about being in a state of attracting as opposed to knowing how.
Yes.
It's not always easy. It's simple, but it's not easy, girl. And I fall out of it. I was doing all of it, and I was like, I'm not happy right now at my own retreat. And I had to get back into alignment and start getting to that place of attracting. I'm here. Okay. Tuning into the station, and everyone's showing up right now. And then you got to ride the wave. Then when you're in a class 5 rapid and you're going down river, you just got to know how to stay in the boat. You know what I mean? Like, we're going down river here and it's going really fast. And sometimes, you got to like find the balance in everything showing up. That's like a whole other thing, especially for women in business. When you start getting really good at intending and attracting, and now everything you want starts showing up at once, and then you go into an old way of thinking that now you need to know how to keep it all going. You fall right back into the needing to know how. It's about staying in the place that you were in when you were attracting it to begin with, because it'll all figure itself out.
You're so right on that. And I often say it's like the hardest work that we'll ever do is our inner work, and really establishing the space within ourselves where we're working on our mindset, we're visualizing, we're believing and feeling all of these possibilities. And it's funny because there's 2 things that will often take us out. There's the challenging experiences where we'll get filled with excuses about why we don't have time, why it's not working, whatever else. And we're meant to beef it up then. But then, like you had just mentioned, in the times of great success, often then we get lazy, or we like
overwhelmed.
Kind of like yes, that's the best way to put it. Overwhelmed. And then we lose our practice there. So it's really about honoring that decision of who is it that is standing here, coming into that flow? What was the intention in the first place? And how can I utilize what's coming in as a greater opportunity of growth?
Yeah, and just let it go. So it's simple, conceptually simple, but simple ain't easy. Not always easy when it's simple. And it's about staying in that trust. And when we need to feel that control again, like everything's happening, like I have people like flipping the suites right now, like kids, we have families now that are here. Kids are out there painting our little stepping stones. We have a handprint wall. People are hand printing. People are kayaking out there. Like there's so much happening right now that and I'm sharing this for those that are now experiencing what I call the growth, their creation, right? You're growing the life you love. And the biggest opportunity is to learn how to love yourself in the life that you're growing.
Yes. I swear that's like the biggest lesson right there. You nailed it.
And that's flipping your script. And all of that is about learning how to grow the life you love and love yourself in it. And if you can love yourself in it first, then the life that you're growing, not so important. Honestly, I got to be honest, it's true. But we do it the reverse. We spend so much time to grow this thing and the business and the success and all of this stuff. And then we're like, oh my gosh, I'm totally overwhelmed. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm not even, and I'm not even happy. But finding that way of being while we're creating and growing, that's the gift.
Yes. Yeah, it's you're right. It's shifting from the inside out versus the outside in. And really like utilizing the external, like I say, as that reflection. What is it that is making me uncomfortable? What might be triggering some of my old stuff? What naturally pulls me out of alignment? Just noticing and observing those things. And I heard you say with the last speaker, experiments. And it's funny, that's how I always lived my life, as it's a big giant science experiment.
Yep.
And
full of intentions, an intention and experiment. I'm gonna experiment with this intention and just see what shows up.
exactly. And what's neat about that is then all of a sudden it's fun, right? Like, because it's all of a sudden we don't have to have it perfect. We can realize that we're human. We can realize that we're going to make mistakes and we're going to not have it all figured out. And that's okay. The more that we engage into the process of experimenting, the more we learn, okay, this worked, this didn't, what was in alignment with me, what wasn't. And we just keep pulling apart pulling apart the pieces that take us out of who we are in that process.
Right. And looking at everything that shows up as a mirror, as a reflection. So another one of my, I don't know, Eliseisms is like we're a cup, right? And I've heard this before, but it's a little different. So like if something shows up and now I'm overwhelmed because all of these amazing things that I thought I wanted, because I thought that when I had them, I would feel better about myself, or I would recognize my value more, or I would be happier, or I would feel a certain way. That's kind of why we want anything. It's because we think we're going to feel a certain way when it shows up. I mean, we're all going for a feeling, whatever that is. So when I just lost my train of thought. Oh, the cup. So if something shows up and I'm frustrated or I'm angry or I'm exhausted or I'm overwhelmed, I'm learning to thank that experience or that person for letting me know that I still have that in my cup. I still have a cup full of that.
Yes.
So if somebody knocks the cup over and there's beer in it, the beer is going to spill. You knock a glass over and there's wine in it, the wine's going to spill. And it's not because the cup was knocked over. It's because it was in it. If there's nothing in a cup and it gets knocked over, nothing's going to spill. And that's alignment. That's neutrality. That's the great place to be.
Yes. And it goes back to that 100% responsibility of our own lives. Like we are 100% responsible for what we feel, what we experience. And when we can own that, then all of a sudden, like you say, you're in that neutral space where you can observe, you can witness, you can utilize that mirrored reflection as an opportunity of growth, as an opportunity to shift.
So Meagan, I want to circle back to something here.
Okay, Corey, you can ask a question now.
I want to circle back to this because I'm thinking if it's on, I always think from the perspective of if it's on my mind, then there's at least one other person that's going, well, I want to know more about this. So I'm circling back to this documentary for one more second. This is front of mind for me because of a project I'm working on. But my question is, you mentioned that the guy who was putting together the film. And by the way, did you get to meet Eric Nguy?
Yes, I have met Eric Nguy, actually.
I noticed he was the publicist for it. So anyway, I just, it's small world. Anyway, so I know Eric from, doing some work with him and stuff. But what I was going to say is that you mentioned that the guy in the room said, I'm looking for one more person for my documentary. And then your mother said, hey, it's you, go on up. And you went up. But I didn't hear the part in between that. Did anybody else go up? Did you compete with anybody? Like, what happened that he actually said you're the one? Because it seems to me in a big room at an event, a lot of people would want to be the one, I would think. But so
I would think so too.
What happened there? Like, what happened from the point of him saying, I want somebody else for my documentary, and you being in the documentary?
Yeah, so honestly, I have no idea if more people went up or what had happened. But basically, I'd gone up, we connected, and I gave him my phone number. And then I never heard from him for a few days. So, of course, my mind was like, oh, well, like, it was worth the shot. No big deal. And then all of a sudden he called and he's like, you know what? Like, I need to connect with you. I'd love to learn more about what it is that you do, what you teach. Let's go for a coffee. So we connected and he's like, you know what? It's kind of crazy because a lot of the pictures from that event, he's like, you're in.
Huh.
And then I shared with him my goal, and it was like all of these synergetic experiences. And it was in that moment that I had said yes to the film that he had asked me to be a part of. And then, to be honest, that's when the true challenge came in, because exactly what we've been talking about, all of a sudden my mindset shifted into, oh my goodness, this can't be possible. And it started to lead into all of those old ways of thinking. and all of the excuses as to why this couldn't be a true reality. And so I spent actually a good 8 months kind of struggling through that process. And I actually left the film and made the excuse that it wasn't for me. I wasn't meant to be a part of it. And so I had left and carried on and was still celebrating all of the things I had seen coming up for the film, and would comment and say, you know what, like, I love that this is the focus in the film. Like, say, for example, emotions, that you're focusing on the feeling versus the thought, because the thought is just one piece. It's the feeling that creates the true reality or not. Mm-hmm. And I often say, like, we either manifest what we're thinking about, or we manifest opportunities to heal. We're always manifesting. And so I would kept commenting, and finally he reached out again and he's like, can we connect? I'd love to have you a part of this film. And I thought, in that moment, I stood there and I thought, okay, now it's coming around a second time. And if I don't say yes to this, then I am like losing the messages that the universe is offering me right now. And I need to own this, and I need to stand true and boost up my belief system that I am worthy and I am deserving of this opportunity. It's shown up twice. And so I said yes. And I have been in that process of really creating that foundational space of mindset, belief systems, feeling the true reality of it ever since. So
the reason I wanted to ask you about that partly as well is I'm from Prince Edward Island. I'm from Summerside, so the smallest part of the smallest province in the country. And I believe you're based in Okotoks, I believe.
Yep.
So not like, you're not in like the bustling Toronto metropolis or New York. And so why I think this is significant for people listening is, and I won't go into much detail about mine because we're basically not, I've been calling it the slightly secret project, but I'm working on a slightly secret but really massive project that our goal now is this year. And so all I'm going to say is, if some people know what it's about, at least I think does, but it's similar project to what you just worked on. And the odds of two people in the matter of three in one interview, and Lisa will be next then, but the odds of two of us having both been working with names, like you said, on a project of that significance, and I'm from the place with a couple thousand people, and I think it's important for people to hear this because I always ignored it. Like, people say, you did 3 TED Talks and you're from PEI. And like, I always just said, what does that have to do with anything? But I think it's important because the whole idea of manifesting and stuff like that, a lot of people don't realize that it doesn't matter where you live. You can manifest from wherever you're at. And this is proof of it. Because
especially right now.
Yeah. Well, and most people would think, though, an opportunity like this, you'd have to be based in New York or Toronto. When it came to writing a New York Times bestselling book, everybody thought you had to be in New York or LA or what have you. And I just think it's important for people to stop and recognize that it doesn't matter where you're at anymore. You can manifest and make this stuff happen. And I just want to take a second to...
It doesn't matter where you're at, but it matters where you're at.
Yes, 100%.
Which at we talking about?
Totally. And I think that's so important, Corey, because, like, again, we can get into all of these excuses as to why something won't happen or something won't work or why we can't create it. But when we, again, go back to that 100% responsibility of our lives, when we can truly choose that for ourselves, we recognize that whatever we're experiencing in our current reality ultimately happened based out of choice in our past. Mm-hmm. And when we can own that and see that, then we can begin to say, you know what, if this isn't where I really want to be, or say I want to create or be a part of some of these kind of bigger projects, what is it that I need to believe? What do I need to begin to feel? What kind of work do I get to begin to do within myself in order to create that?
It's so true. And, I have it with students that work with me that want to land a TED Talk. And that's, again, the same thing they struggle with as well. I live in insert name here. How can I do a TED Talk? Well, you do, there's this thing now where COVID, changed things, but now you can do it from your home. But previous to that, there is this thing that we call airplanes, and you can actually take it from one place. I'm not being, meant to be flippant about it. But the point is that even that scenario, like doing a TEDx talk, there's TEDx's everywhere now. So sometimes there's a TEDx in a smaller place than you live that are taking place right now. And so, like, to your point, I just think it's important for us to recognize that when we put it out there, we don't have to know the how, but it doesn't matter how big our dreams are, they are possible. That I just,
When you believe they are.
when you believe they are. Well, and The Secret, jump to another documentary, Lisa Nichols told me that same thing. She was sitting in a room and Rhonda Byrne was saying, we're doing this movie, et cetera, and Lisa didn't put her hand up. She didn't think, I don't think I can be in this thing. I don't think this is for me. And she said, I was the only person I think in the whole room didn't even know what this law of attraction was. I'd never heard of it. And here I'm in a session where the person's saying, we're going to do an event around law of attraction. And she said, it can't be me. And I would argue that she's one of the biggest names today that was in The Secret. Yet she didn't think she could be in The Secret. And so I just think it's important for us all to realize we might see limitations, but wherever we see limitations, abundance exists. I just want to take a second.
Yes.
For that.
Oh, I love that. I love that because it's so true. Again, it's really easy for us to put the brakes on things out of fear or out of disbelief, out of past-based experiences. And I think, especially in this time, especially with that, really anything is possible, right? Like that's what I view this current experience in the world is for us to really see how quickly things can shift, that what we thought was permanent isn't. And for some, that creates more fear. But really, I see it as an opportunity for us to say, okay, well, then what else is possible? What else can we create if this is what we've experienced now on a global scale? Let's use this and own it and begin moving forward with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell this story, and it ties into what you're talking about, Meagan, is a client of mine, and he's a quadriplegic. He became a friend, so we kind of got a little closer after our coaching. And anyway, so he came to me one day during our coaching, and he says to me, he goes, Elise, I want to tell you something. He's like, I've been thinking about this, and the reason I reached out and what we're working through right now has nothing to do with me in this chair. So it was his 2500th jump to celebrate getting his chiropractic license, and it landed him in the chair. So he never got to practice, which, think about that, chiropractor, quadriplegic, like that whole piece to me is like, okay, the universe is pretty witty and creative, but I'm not even sure about that one. So he says to me, he goes, everything that I'm really, truly, deeply struggling with, I brought to this chair. He's like, yeah, there's other things, like I'm humbled and people are cooking for me and wiping my butt or whatever. And that's an add-on to the challenge. But the true struggles I brought with me to this chair. And I look at this global plot twist, I call it, like things that are happening as a chair. We're all in the chair. So whatever's coming up for you in this global chair, in your chair right now during what's happening, you brought to the chair. We all brought it to the chair. Okay, so we have to wear a mask and maybe we can't go out as much. And well, that's a good thing. So you save money. You're not partying as much. You're going out to eat. But so there are certain things like he has in the chair that are add-ons, but the true struggles, the true challenges were brought to the chair. So I welcome everyone to ask themselves, what am I truly challenged with? What have I been challenged with this entire past year? And did I bring that with me to this new experience? And I promise you, 90% of it you probably brought with you. And were you waiting for something to change before even this happened for you to make a decision to start creating? Or were you creating even before that and continued to create all the way through? So are you waiting or are you creating? And I promise you, if you were waiting, you were still waiting. You didn't just start waiting. You were waiting and you brought the waiting. If you were creating, you created through it. So I think that's a good way to look at it from a different perspective, is owning it. Okay, so you have to wear a mask. Who cares? We have to wear a bra and a shirt and shoes in Florida to go into a 7-Eleven. So put the mask on. But if you're frustrated with putting the mask on and you feel like you're being silenced, I promise that you felt like you were being silenced somewhere in your life before. Because I have some clients that were up in arms. I can't believe I have to put a mask on and they can't hear me. I said, when was the first time that you didn't feel heard?
Exactly.
Because I'll put a mask on. I'm like, then I don't have to wax. No, I'm just kidding. You can't even see.
So Meagan, I want to ask
The
you.
lipstick, like, it's fine. I'll put the mask on. It's not a big deal. But so I'm adding on to what you're talking about owning it.
Mm-hmm.
And Meagan, I wanted to ask you just a little bit more about your work before we bring things to a close. But I just wanted to add one last thing to what we're talking about here as well, because this is the part, whether it's thoughts becoming things, whether it's synchronicity, whatever that looks like. One of the parts that I think is not always, one of the parts I think that's missing for a lot of people is the action side of it. So, Lisa Nichols, I use her as the example again, and at least you heard me share this. It's so powerful, this quote. But she said, when I asked her what she thought was missing from The Secret, she said, well, I had to go around for about 2 years later and teach people about the action part. And she said, what she said to me, it's like if you had the best vision board in the world, the best one ever made, sitting beside you on the couch, and you looked at it at every commercial break, every single one, and you visualized as strong as you could, but you never get off the couch, all you're going to have at the end of the year is a lump in your couch. And so to me, it's the part that we miss sometimes, like let's say it's a synchronicity, is the taking action of it. And so I think that's a part people give up on it too easily because they think, well, I didn't manifest it, meaning I didn't put it on a vision board and it didn't come into my life. But Elise and I are a great example because we met 6 years ago almost now at a Hayos conference. It actually was the Wayne Dyer Memorial Hayos Conference.
Do it.
Oh,
Yeah, it
was the You Can Do It event.
You Can Do It event. And we ran it, my girlfriend actually ran into her in line and we chatted and connected. And so I've been working with an author around synchronicities. And so I thought, you know what? Nothing ever happens unless there was a reason Elise met us there and was the one we were talking to. So I need to follow up. And whether it was her or me, but we kept following up. Here we are 6 years later co-hosting a show together. My point is, what if we didn't take action? What if both of us said, that was a cool synchronicity and moved on? We wouldn't be talking today probably. So I feel like the other part of it, and you got to be your seat and went up and said, I'm interested in meeting you in the documentary. Here's my number. I think the part that a lot of people miss when they start thinking about manifestations and intentions, they forget the part about you have to still take action.
yes.
I just want to put it out there and get your stuff on it.
And I love that because it's so true. I call them soul pulls. And really what that means is we are always getting opportunities placed in front of us. And often we get confused by them because our sensations that come up or our emotions that come up are like fear, or we think it's fear. And we don't act on it because the ego comes up and does whatever we think we need to do in order to be safe, comfortable in that situation. But when we can really become still and listen, and so this is what I invite all of the listeners to do, is when that fear comes up, instead of reacting out of that fear, is check in and get curious. Is it even fear in the first place? Because it may be excitement. The two feel very similar in our bodies, and it's easy to confuse the two. And really ask yourself, is it fear or is it excitement? And then I also ask myself, if I don't take action on this thing, how will I feel? And if I do, how will I feel? And I ask myself those questions exactly in the moment. And when it's in alignment with something that I've been wanting to create, even though there's fear, which I usually find out it's excitement, and I think about what would not, or how I would feel if it didn't happen, or if I didn't take action, then it makes it easier to stand up and say, you know what? Here I go. Let's try this out.
Love it.
And
That's
it's kind of, yeah. And it's like allowing ourselves more so to go from like dropping our ego, because our ego is going to keep us safe, right? That's its job. That's like, it's a beautiful thing in so many ways because it protects us, but it's checking in with, do I want to be protected from this? Or do I want to step through it and thrive from this?
Love it. And so, Meagan, I said I want to learn more about your work. We're right down to the wire, but so what I'm going to ask you is a two-part question. One, can you tell us what it looks like to work with you, meaning how you work with clients? And I'm just looking for like it's just a quick summary for somebody listening to visualize what it would be like to work with you. And then the follow-up to that is how they can actually find you. Is there a hub, or where would they connect with you if they wanted to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So what it looks like right now, I have a primary focus in a program because I do believe the logistical aspects of business are great, but this is really the foundational piece. And it's exactly what we've all been talking about within this whole conversation is it's a program called the Soul Fillment Method. And what that is it's teaching you how to become still, how to acknowledge your heart versus your ego, and how to move through to take action on those soul pulls so that you can be soul filled. So it's an online program. And then right now, because it's in its launch period, I do offer like bi-weekly coaching within that as well, which is really powerful because it's taking the law of attraction and beefing it up basically, because it's learning how to take those actions like we've talked about to create what it is that you really want in your life. So really powerful. And the best way to connect with me is either through that website, which is thesoulfillmentmethod.com, or look me up on Facebook and send me a message. I love connecting, and I love really getting to know the people that want to work with me before I work with them, because I'm a big believer in transformational relationships versus transactional relationships.
Awesome. I love your little like branding. Super cute.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, soul fillment. It's perfect.
I love
Totally.
it. And just about to put the website in the comments here.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. Yeah, it's, I share this, and I'll share it really quickly, but I had an experience about 6 months ago where we had a house fire and I was quite badly burnt in the process. You wouldn't really notice it now. I've been very, very fortunate. But in my time of healing, where I literally was forced to stop and be with and experience what was going on and what I really wanted to do moving forward, it created that clarity of, am I really listening to my soul, or am I doing things based out of my ego? And really observing aspects or times of my life where maybe I had traveled the route of the ego a little bit more. And what did it feel like? Did it feel good? Did it feel like it was in alignment, or did it not? And so that's what this is all about, is really establishing that foundation as entrepreneurs, as individuals, that allow us to move in that alignment space so it feels good. And it's simple, not always easy, but it's simple to create the things that we want in our lives.
Wow, I'm glad you're okay.
I was very lucky. I'm a big believer in those universal bumper pads. Like when we get out of alignment in a little bit of ways, the universe puts up a bumper pad and brings us back to.
Oh, I like the use of bumper pad. It's less it's less resistance. You just bounce back.
Yeah,
I love
exactly. Yeah, the universe always putting up those bumper pads.
The bumper pads. You don't mind if I borrow that, do you?
No, go for
Okay.
it.
So I also want to share with you too. You're familiar with Louise Hay?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Did you go? What I do when I feel something physically, I'm always like in the back of the book. Okay, what's the cause? I mean, now I know it, with my eyes closed. But did you go look up, burnt, when you have a burn in your skin?
No, but you know what? I actually just kind of sat with it because I had a moment in the fire where I had fallen, and that's why I got so badly burnt. And in that moment, it was like this dawn of clarity. And it was like I could feel my spiritual team behind me. And it was like this burning away of all of my old masculine traits, like the doing, the being busy, the overgiving. And not that giving is bad, but was it intentional? Was it from my true being, or was it with the desire to create a specific outcome? So it was burning because it was my whole right side of my body that got burnt, like from just underneath my cheek right down to the tips of my toes.
I can't even see it.
I know. I've got some scarring on my arm and on my leg, but I'm so blessed.
Were your kids there?
Yeah, they were in the tub actually. So we got them out, and they then went back in to try and get the fire out. Note to everybody, don't do that. Call 911, they're trained for that stuff.
Wow, isn't that fun? And they were in the water, in the tub.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad that you're all okay.
100%.
And it's to be honest, it's been a very liberating. Like, I won't say that it hasn't been a challenging experience, but it's been liberating. It's been something that we all needed in a lot of ways, to be able to pause and look at where we are and what we really want to create from that soul level. And it was really powerful, and it still is. I mean, we're still working through it, but it's still something that I feel honored and blessed. Gratitude.
Amazing. Well,
Awesome.
Meagan, this has been an absolute pleasure, which I knew it would be. And so I really just want to say I thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your story so openly, and for spending the time with us. And I always call it a to be continued, because I know it won't be the last interview or conversation. So, Meagan, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything you want to leave everybody with? Any thoughts or wisdom or?
Mind seed.
I will definitely bring in a seed, a mind seed.
Can you hear her?
Oh, yeah, I think you're a bit low right now.
Oh, here. I had one of my earbuds fall out here. So my mind seed would be, I am ready to create stillness so I can build fulfilling momentum in my life.
Can you say that again?
Yeah. I am ready to bring stillness in so that I can create fulfilling momentum in my life.
Okay. Would you mind putting that in the comments?
Totally.
When you hop off, you can just pop it in the comments, because that's a powerful one.
Yeah,
I'm using that one this week. Thanks.
And Leanne said amazing stories that you shared, Meagan. So just a shout out from Leanne. So.
Thanks, Leanne.
So definitely watch the replay as well if you get a chance, Meagan, because we get comments and feedback and questions in the replays. And I always feel bad for the replay people. Sometimes they don't get as much love, in the sense that, you know, not everybody comes back to the replay, like the people hosting it, and sees what the questions are and stuff. So if you get a chance to check out the replay, great. If not, if you want to check out comments inside right now, feel free. And as Elise mentioned, they are kind of scattered all over different places. So just wherever whether it's inside the Facebook group or on my page or what have you, you might see a comment or two there that you might want to reply to. But I'll leave that with you.
Yeah, and then also on the Facebook page, for sure, if you just put all your like social media or contact information just in the comments, that when people go back and watch the replay there, they can like go, oh, how can I reach out to her? And it'll be in the comments.
Awesome. I will do that for sure.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us.
Well, thank you. This has been such a great conversation. And I love always being in the space of like-minded individuals and being able to share these kinds of tools to like-minded individuals that are also listening.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we really digged having you here. And again, I'll call it a to-be continue with your permission, because I think we just barely scratched the surface as well. Especially if 3 people that are all energetic like us, you can only cover so much in a short amount of time. So I think we could probably make this happen again at some point in the near future.
Yeah, but we did a great job.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely think it's a to be continued. I'd love to do that.
Awesome stuff, Meagan. Well, thank you so much. We'll let you run, and we'll just send great wishes your way, and we'll continue to wave the flag for all the great things you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Corey. Thank you, Lee.
So
just cut her off.
I know.
Bye.
That,
love you.
I hit it too quick, I think. I jumped the gun too quick.
It's all right. It's not Meagan. Personal, Meagan.
Yeah, 100%. So, Elise, I'm going to bring our next guest on. I'm going to say hi to him for a second, and then I'm going to jump off and back on, because my Wi-Fi thing has been up and down, and I think I just got to plug in, and I just got to go grab the cord. So, all
right, well, introduce us first, because I don't think we've met.
No, you haven't.
Not that matters.
So, Jason, great to see you here today. How's it going, my friend?
Good, Corey. How are you? Elise, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, Jason.
Awesome. So, Jason, where we usually like to start, and you probably just heard what I said, I'm going to be jumping off just for a second, but I'll be right back. But we usually like to start by getting you to tell us just a little bit about yourself, your backstory, just so people get to know you a little bit before we dive in a lot deeper anyway. So you don't have to worry about how deep you go, because we'll be diving deep later. And I have it on my phone still, so I'll still hear what you're saying, and I'll circle back in like less than 3 minutes.
All right, we got this, Jason. We're good.
Yeah, no problem. If there's one thing I don't mind talking. So
Oh, well, perfect. You and I both. Is that a New
Right?
York? Is that a New York Yankees cap I see behind you?
I got Yankees. That's one of the things I love to do is like I love ball caps. It's something that I gotten back into since I was younger.
Uh-huh.
Was some of the things. Well, let's start off with a story.
Well, where are you in the world? First and foremost.
Calgary, Alberta.
Okay, so we got the Canadian team today. I'm
Yeah,
the one I'm NYC. That's why I was asking about your New York Yankees cap, but I'm in Florida right now. So just
and the
like to
Boston
get.
Cap's and the Boston Cap's right beside it, so it's probably not a good thing.
Well, no, it means you're balanced.
Beautiful. Yeah. No, so just a little bit about me and my backstory. Blessed to be on here. Been watching the last couple speakers. Really, really amazing stuff. Really grateful to have the opportunity to come on and speak with yourself and with Corey. It's funny. I saw Corey on a newsfeed in Facebook, and I'm like, that's something I want to do. I want to be a part of what he's doing, and that's kind of how this all began for me. Basically, I at one point in time, I used to play professional hockey years ago, and as time went on, I had this issue with alcohol that I didn't really know or could accept that I had at the time, and it affected all aspects of my life. But there's a lot of people that know that have been in my situation and worked through it. It's progressive. So there's certain things that I was doing that was enabling my addictions, right, over a period of time that got to the point really where I was almost dying. So 500 and some pounds. In my athletic career, I was about 240, and when I hit rock bottom, I was 500 plus.
Wow. You look
yeah.
great right now. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've dropped a significant amount of weight over the last 3.5 years. I sobered up. Basically what it was, I went on a tear from 30 to 43. I'm 46 now. I'll be 47 next month. And I went on a real hard tear. And the progression, caught up with me to the point where it was even difficult for me to walk up a flight of stairs, like back pain, body pain. I didn't realize that I was a diabetic. I had atrial fibrillation, so my heart wasn't working properly. Honestly, surprised that I didn't die. Surprised that I'm still here. I didn't know how to get sober. I didn't know what to do. Pretty much prayed on it. And believe it or not, I had a friend come who knew a little bit more about addictions than I did that felt compelled to come and see me one day. Go figure, right?
Like out of the blue?
Yeah, out of the blue, and this was after 5 days of me sitting back and holding a Bible and crying.
And praying, right?
Oh, yeah, man. I was in between praying and crying. I was drinking and doing drugs, right? I went on a hard tear.
Was this after your hockey career?
Correct. Yeah. After my hockey career, I got married, really, and that's why I stopped playing hockey. I was 25 years old, and I decided that it would be
just a youngin'.
Yeah, really. And I still had a lot of time in my career, but like anything, I wasn't focused at that time. I really, my size, and I'm 6'4", 240. I could fight. I could play forward, defense.
You're 6'4"?
Yeah.
You don't look 6'4" sitting down.
Let me stand beside you.
Yeah, right. All you have to do is stand up. You'll be off the screen. We'll see you from here down.
True story. So, I had a lot of talent and a lot of God-given ability, but I didn't know how to focus it, and I didn't understand really, and I didn't really have a good coach. I'm talking about, somebody that could give me the right advice, that can make me look at myself and really understand where I'm at in my life and where I need to go. And, it was just pure talent and the love for the game. But in between, of course, I'd be looking for what bar to go to, because I didn't fit in. I really didn't fit in anywhere, right? I only fit in when I was fighting, or when, that was good to somebody else is how I felt, or, at the bar. It's funny how there's some guys on hockey teams that get a lot of attention, and, there's a hardworking guys on every club, but, if you're a fighter, if you're like a top goaltender, if you're a top goal scorer, there's going to be guys that are going to get attention afterwards. And, I got fed drinks like crazy. Great job, man. Good fight. Even if
so, is that what you were, a goalie?
Well, no, I played left wing or right wing, lefty or righty, but I fought a lot, right? I played an aggressive game, but I, never committed to one place. I always moved around. I was always traded. Like there was one season I played on 6 different teams.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, I started
That's
off
like
with
being in the military of hockey.
Well, it's crazy. I had an opportunity with the Edmonton Oilers in 1997, and I was one of the last cuts and got sent down in the minors. Ended up going to Hamilton of the Bulldogs, and then from there it was a choice. Jay, what do you want to do? We'd like you to stay in our system, go down to the East Coast League. Well, I didn't really have anybody guide me, so I thought it'd be better to go play with friends or people that I thought were my friends. So I went out to Reno, Nevada.
Oh.
And, yeah, that's a great place to go when you're.
That's a great place to be an addict.
Right, but somebody who didn't know. Still, I
right.
wasn't.
I know you were young. You were 25.
Yeah, I was functioning, and I was still able to play and drink and go to practices the next day, and ended up, because of some actions of my own, I got let go and got traded to another team. So I went to from Reno. So now that's 3 teams. I went from Reno to a team called the Tucson Gila Monsters. They went defunct. Then I was trying to find, because the West Coast Hockey League wasn't one of the best leagues you could go play in, right? So teams were coming and going. And then I ended up going out to the Central League. It took me a while to find a team, and they picked me up. I was playing for a team called the Macon, Georgia. The team name was the Macon Whoopee. Yeah, straight up, Macon Whoopee. So
how long did they last, or are they still around?
They were around for a little while. One of the best team names I've ever played for, the Macon Whoopee. And then they had whoopee cushions, of course, that they'd sell at the concession.
That's brilliant, though. That's fun.
Oh yeah, it was a good time. And then I ended up getting traded again, and I played my final team, 6 teams that year with the Fort Worth Fire, and I had a place. I felt like I actually kind of belonged there. Left, and I came back the next year, and I was having one of the best years of my life. But alcohol, partying, going out afterwards, not being a team guy, and I was let go. And it just, where was the accountability? Like I could never look at myself. It was everybody else's problem. It was never my issue. It was everybody else until until I was 43, until I got sober. Leaving that life behind and sitting there, like I was explaining to you earlier, on my deathbed, looking at some of my hockey pictures up on my wall and praying and knowing that I'm either going to live or die. And I wanted to live, because but for a long time, in that bottom, there was a 2-week period where I couldn't grab a gun and pull the trigger. I wanted to die, like straight up. I wanted to die. I couldn't slit my wrists, or I couldn't hang myself. You know what I mean? Like all these thoughts go through your head.
Yeah.
At least mine, they did, right? How can I end this? Because the pain and the suffering was unbearable.
So that's really what you wanted to end. You wanted to end the pain and the suffering, not your life.
Yeah, absolutely. But the only way I thought I could do it was by drinking more, doing more drugs, and hopefully not waking up. It was really to that point.
So what was your how did you flip your script? What was that perspective shift? What was the thing that your friend showed up?
Well, what flipped my script is I prayed. I knew I couldn't do it. And I come from a background of faith, right? Did I practice it? No. I love how Steve Harvey says, I'm not the best Christian, but I'm a Christian. I still swear, right? And if you don't like it, that's fine, but that's me. I still believe in God, right? But, I sat there with the Bible, and I just couldn't do it on my own. And I was asking for help. Really, that's what I thought I had left. And the reason why is I'm sitting there looking at pictures on my wall of me when I was a younger man, and how good shape I am, and how good of shape I was in, and how much I lived life, and I loved it. And I was full of energy. Like I've got it all back today, if you haven't noticed, that energy and that spike. Like I love where my life's at today. And that's really where I wanted to be again. I'm like, this isn't what I was meant for. I wasn't meant to sit here in this bed and die. I wasn't meant to be this person. I was meant for better things. And that's where it all started. Then I had a friend come over out of the blue. And she has been
honor the fact that you've been praying. It wasn't out of the blue, absolutely. Jason. It was not out of the blue.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
summoned whatever it was, right? The guy on the roof in the flood and says, God says, I'm going to save you. And the boat comes and the helicopter comes and the kayak comes and he's like, never mind, God's got me. And he ends up with God. And God said, I sent you the boat and the helicopter and the kayak and you didn't take any of it.
Yeah.
Your God, Buddha, Jesus, Jah, whoever you pray to, here you go. Here's your life vest.
That was a moment, something that was very significant is when she came over, sat there with me, and at the end of my bed, and I told her I need help, and she's like, "Well, you got the right person because I've helped out others with this, so I know where to take you. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to be here at 7:30. We got to be there before 8 for you to have an opportunity to get in and detox." And she looked at me and she goes, on the way out, she said, "If you're not ready at 7:30, I'm never coming back."
Good for her.
That's it. I'll never forget it. And I literally, I was reflecting on that when she left, and I'm like, I'm either going to live or I'm going to die. So what's it going to be, Jay? So I went downstairs. Because I didn't want to miss her. I left the front door open, like the door so you could walk in, and I slept on the floor with my head facing the door about 3 feet apart. So when she opened it, it would wake me up.
See, you were even creative then.
Yeah, right. So she was there. I was up well before, and got my stuff ready. I think I had probably another 8 ounces of alcohol straight out of the bottle, vodka, a line of cocaine, and I went on my merry way. And that was the last. My last drink and my last drug was July 5th. 2017 at 7:35 in the morning. So exact time, exact day. I walked out that door, went to a place called Renfrew in
what is it? Renfrew?
Renfrew. Yeah, it's in Calgary. It's a detox facility, medical detox. We were there 2 minutes before, and the security guard didn't want to let us in, and she lost it. And when the nurses come out and say, no, we'll let them in. And then I'm in this room of 14 people, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, there's no way I'm going to get in. And they go through interviews. So, just to even describe what it looked like with these individuals, like you're on a bench seat and with these individuals around you and what they're all going through, it was a horrific scene, to be quite honest with you. And then going into the interview process, and I just laid it on the line. Drinking a 40 of vodka a day, I'm chasing it with 12 beers, and I'm probably doing an ounce of cocaine a week. And I'm going to die, and this isn't who I'm meant to be. And I was crying through the whole interview. And after that, the nurse came out and they announced we only got 4 beds. Announced the first name, it wasn't me. Announced the second name, it wasn't me. Announced the third name, it wasn't me. And I literally thought, that's it, my life's over. Announced the 4th name, and it was me. I dropped to the fetal position on the floor in front of 13 other people, and I started to cry. For the first time in my life, at that point, in active addiction, I had hope. And when you have hope, watch out. When there's a little bit of hope, watch out what can happen.
Yeah, because hope is just the beginning to belief and all of the good stuff that comes after, right?
And I didn't know where I was going. I just knew that this was a start. So I was in the right place with nurses that were going to watch me. For 5 days, I sat in this area that they watch. I couldn't even get up and walk to the bathroom, and it was probably 20 paces. They had to move me 5 paces from the bathroom to use it, and it took 5 people to get me out of bed and hold me to walk me. Even I never ate for probably the first couple days. I've never been through such bad body pain, convulsions. It felt like shakes. My heart rate was like almost at 200. Like they almost were going to send me to, the hospital, right? And I battled through it. And then you're in there, when you got a couple days to get your thoughts together, they offer an opportunity to go to treatment because that's what I needed. I didn't know what care looked like after this, right? So I ended up, talking to a couple individuals there who've been through this process before, and I got accepted to a place called 1835 here in Calgary, and it all started there. My friend picked me up, who brought me to detox. brought me over there, and I spent 6 months in treatment living with 20 some other men. I had a room just that I had to share with another guy. But you want to talk about humility and putting your ego in check, right? Probably having to do five meetings a day during the week in treatment. There is a few meetings that you have to do, and then there's a few that you have to do outside the house, and you've got to maintain certain disciplines in order to be there, right? So I learned how to live again. I didn't know how to, do laundry. Of course I did, but really on a regular basis, and to maintain a clean environment because you're sharing it with another human being. Having chores to do, and just expectations, right? And then after the first month, you're required, if you want to stay, to work. And I think, Corey, you've seen my picture. It'll be in the book, right? But to see who I was at that point, to see where I'm at today, I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, let alone to the bus stop to go to a job. I couldn't do anything physical. So the only thing I knew I wanted to do was get back into the sales side of things in automotive. I've got an automotive background. I've been in it since 2000. And I got fired from a job in sales prior to, really hitting rock bottom. And I went back and I said, this is where I'm at. I'm 15 days sober. I got a 30-day program before I can go out and work. But I'd like a second chance. And, the general manager who interviewed me gave me that second chance because he was also 5 years sober himself. So it's funny. And he was a new general manager there. So it's funny how that worked out, right? And he gave me that opportunity. And I pushed through, you guys, like you don't even know. Just having to walk to the bus stop in the cold. Luckily, my train stop was right close to the dealership. So that was a blessing. They allowed me to use a vehicle to make sure I went to meetings during the day at lunch. Like everything just worked out. And that was the first 6 months in 17. I left 1835 and I moved into a sober living facility in 2018 in January. And then I was off and running, being with 5 other men, not with 20, living in a house of like-minded individuals, and still being held accountable. And this is called the Oxford House. And the Oxford House Foundation is amazing. 1830, like Renfrew, 1835, Oxford House. If there was a path that I could give everybody, I'd say that's the way to do it. But everybody's got to find their own way. And for me, this is what worked. So I spent a year and a half there. And then 18, while I was there, I was #1 in sales at the dealership. A part of the Chairman's Club, 700 salespeople across Canada. I was in the top 40. There's no coincidence that the fact that I was sober, my mind was right, that I could focus and I could be a part of something and have success. And now, in a sales room, you're part of a team too, right? Yeah, there's great competition going against each other. And I love that. I love that team atmosphere, right? There's some people you don't like. It is what it is, right? But I learned in sobriety about acceptance. I can't change people, places, or things. I can only change myself and how I react to it. And believe me, I've got defects of character that still I'm working through today.
Not
right?
you, Jason.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I just got to look in the mirror, right, and pray on it. That's about it.
They're just letting you know what you still have in your cup.
Yeah, thanks.
What's in your cup? We all got stuff in our cup.
Right.
I want to add something in, Jason, just with a mini break here for a second. You're speaking my language in a lot of ways. I don't talk about it often because really, in a lot of ways, it's not my story to tell. But my girlfriend is over 6 years sober now. And the reason I say I can tell it is because she's open about it on social media, Facebook. She puts it out there, if you need help, I'm here. And so people know she is. So it's not like I'm sharing her stuff. And in fact, she's working on a book about it. I won't go into further detail than that. But I will say, going to AA with her numerous times, going to Al-Anon, and my mother would share as well that she struggled. And so going with both of them and experiencing it and seeing it all firsthand, one thing I learned is that for somebody who's never experienced it, like somebody who just can go casually have a drink, they don't even understand what the big deal is. Like I see people are like, well, just don't have the drink. But I'll tell you one thing that Shelly said to me one day that I never forgotten. It's so strange how little things stand out. But I remember we were in LA. We had just gone to this record store that we were both enamored with. We were, my mother just put she's 23 years. So, but
Nice.
she's watching. So, but that we were at Capitol Records, what do you call it? The Walk of Fame, or what is it? Walk of Fame, right? In Hollywood. And so we were experiencing all these cool experiences. And as we're walking past a bar with an outdoor patio deck, her exact words were, I just wish we could go up there and have one drink like real people. Like she said, I wish I could just go. And she wasn't meaning I want to go have a drink. She was meaning like, why can't my life be like most people where they can just go and sit out and have a drink on the deck? And I never forgot that because most people could never understand why she's saying that. Now she says, as you know, in AA, you know, what is it? One drink's too many and 1,000's never enough. She knows she can't have that one drink, but she's saying, why can't I just go have that one drink? And I know it's rattled my mind, but that stuck with me for like to this day, 6 years later.
I agree 100%. There's, you know, I'll walk by a bar, I'll go into a bar, and I know when I need to leave. Like I know, like I've got it to a point where I've got a person I can call, or I know how to say no, and I'm not afraid to tell people why, right? But I'm sure I could have one, and maybe have and leave. I'm sure I could do that. That's not the point. What's going to happen is it's going to be in my system, and I know because the DNA that I have says to me, well, let's go and have just one more tomorrow. It's okay. Not a big deal. And then, hey, well, you know, I'm here. Might as well have a couple shots. So it's progressive, right? So it took me 13 years or whatever, 40 some years. Well, let's say when I started drinking, I was 16. So do the math to 43. It took me that long to figure out that I couldn't do this anymore. If I start again tomorrow, guess what? That time frame shrinks up real fast. I'm back to where I used to be in record speed. And I'm not talking about the weight gain and stuff, but I bet you I'll be dead, you know, within a year's time, maybe within months. Because not only am I looking for the drink, I'm looking for the drug. I'm looking for the people that I surrounded myself in the past that now get me and understand me. So this is what I talk about with habits and rituals, right? So when I look back at my life and what I was doing, these were like subconscious habits and rituals. These were things that I was doing that, you know, I just continued to do, right? Like I wanted to go to the bar. Like this, my day was, I'm going to start off with a triple vodka and 4 ounces of tequila. Let's go. Like that's it. And then what bar am I going to go to next? Like my days were pre-planned. You know what I mean? So now what do you lose? You lose your family, you lose your friends, you lose your money, you lose your home, you lose your car, right? You're pretty much couch surfing and you're homeless. At least that was my story, you know? And thankfully, I never stuck a needle in my arm, or I never got into, you know, cocaine's hard enough, but luckily, you know, I never smoked anything or did anything else. But wow, poor choices. But my mind wasn't right.
You were out of alignment, and there was a lot of guidance that you could have benefited from that wasn't there at the time.
Oh, you know what's funny though is even I would tell myself when I did sober up for a couple days, I'm like, man, I feel great. So I was fooling myself, right? And I even say this out loud: the alcoholic memory is really short, right? The alcoholic memory is short because I don't remember how that pain was 2 days ago when I go back out to go and have another drink with my buds or myself. And it got to the point where I was drinking alone in my house, right? And in my place that I barely could hold on to with other like-minded individuals living with me, right? Like I surrounded myself by other people. I paid the rent, but man, they also bought me booze and party supplies and whatever, right? So it wasn't a good situation. And then, you know, today, you guys, you know, let's go from where I was.
Yeah, let's talk about now, because this is like right now. So what's going on now with you, Jason? How's life now?
You know, just over almost 4 years. July will be 4 years sober. I'm down over 130 pounds. I'm happy.
Happier? That's
I'm
it.
happy.
All right.
I wake up every day with gratitude. I've gone from a place where, you know, I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs. I had no money in the bank. My health was poor. I was diabetic. I'm no longer diabetic. My AFib's in control, right? So it's funny that when when I am sober and my mind's right, that I start to take, these life checks and what do I need to do to get better? What are my goals? Like people talk about their why and whatnot. I have a story, and for in the first year, I was like, man, I want to tell my story. Well, what goes on with that? Well, man, you got to get your act together. You need to be well, not just financial secure, but you need to get rid of these amends that you have to do, financial amends to other individuals, and clear the slate, man, clear your side of the streets. And then you can build some sort of a track record, some sort of a history of positivity, right? Where you can give hope and inspiration to others. So if anybody sees my Facebook feed on my page, you'll see what I do, right? And I'm walking the walk. I'm somebody that's doing it today.
What do you do for those of us who haven't seen your feed yet?
Well, for me, it's right now. It's about. I'm not going to promote myself as a business. I'm still in the midst of my story and my journey, right?
Okay.
So on social media, I started in February 30-day challenge for exercise. Okay, and I did this in the years past, and I've gotten, I think, all up to like 150 days. But like anything, I needed help. I hit a wall. Mm-hmm. So I had to recognize, and I do a lot of this now, self-reflection and recognize where I need help. I'm not afraid to go out and ask for it now. When I asked for help to get sober, I got it. And along the way, when I asked for, where do I need to go next? Okay, boom, there it is. Where do I need? Okay, there. Awesome. So I asked, and the universe gave me what I needed. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then my own ego, my own stubbornness wouldn't allow me to hit under 380 pounds, right? So what do I need to do? I'm like, okay, I need to go find somebody. And I found him on Facebook. I found Corey on Facebook. I want to tell my story. Boom, this gentleman's helping me. And as you are, Elise, by allowing me to come on and speak with you guys.
Oh, you're always welcome, Jason.
Appreciate it. And then I found another gentleman, Cody Thompson, at White Collar Boxing and Airdrie. And I've been watching him, right? Like, so he had this thing about him, and he's got a hockey background. So I connected that way. So he's got me on a certain program, and he's like, start doing this and this. And then I went further. So I did a 3K walk. He's like, only do it, 3 times a week. I did it every day. Then I went on my own and I went up to 4K. And then 3 weeks later, it's like, hey bud, you're doing this so well. Let's go to 5K. So I'm walking 5K a day. I'm boxing 3 days a week, and I'm at Gold's Gym now in the morning, 3 to 5 days a week. So I'm tripling up exercise daily to a guy who, right? So guess what? And he's got me on macros. So I'm only hitting a certain amount of calories. The weight's coming off. So
Jason, I'm going to piggyback on your workouts. I'm a big advocate for piggybacking on prayer. I'm going to piggyback on all your prayers, and I'll just be with you in spirit during all your workouts because I commend you.
Thank you. See, and you know what I love is getting the feedback, right? I don't do it to go out and to get a pat on the back. It's if I can encourage somebody else to know that there's hope, right? That's it. That's all. I was given something very freely. I was given my life back through by asking, through prayer, and then being guided by asking other individuals. AA has been an amazing program for me. I've been giving something free. You know what I mean? And all I'm doing is putting in the work. So habits and rituals, man. What am I doing today to progress to tomorrow? There's nothing that I can do in one single day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, that's going to get me to where I want to be. You got to put the work in, man.
Well, it's like thoughts. It's like, what is a belief? It's a chronic thought. Like one thought you think a thing one time, it doesn't become a belief that gets rooted in who you are, right? You have to think it a lot for it to form into a belief. So your habits, you do a lot of habits every single day, it becomes a ritual. Same concept, right?
And I'm going to fail too. Like, at least
what does failing mean to you, though, Jason?
Well, failure is committing to something that you're going to do and don't do it, right? For me, I failed at a commitment over, let's say, a 2-month period, and maybe I missed a couple days. Well, those were rest days, or maybe I missed a week, and then I gave up on it totally. But I kept going. I continued. Here I am 3.5 years later. There's been breaks, but in those breaks,
take a break.
In those breaks, it's self-reflection. But I didn't say what I was going to do. Right, I talked a big game, and then I backed off from it. You know what I mean?
But maybe the big game just wasn't there yet. Listen, you're a hockey player. Sometimes you talk a big game, and that wasn't that game that was the big game, but the big game shows up.
Fair enough. Fair. You know, sometimes I am a little hard on myself as well.
Well, I'm going to help you right now. Flip that internal script. I'm going to help you ease a little into this. And I also want to say, so I'm listening to what you're saying, and you're saying that I don't know how it happened, or I don't know where it came from. I'm going to tell you something. You're the one who took ownership. You're the one who decided that I am choosing to pray, because you believe that prayer was something that you could go to. So I really, really welcome you to take a little bit more credit for everything that's showing up in your life, because you have been the creator of that. And yes, I know God, Buddha, Jah, Jesus, whatever it is your thing, is the creator, but he, she, or they created you in the eyes of. So it's very important to say, you know, to also own that.
I appreciate that. I have, you know, I have a really.
Not to be coaching you right here, but I'm just saying I'm getting this message for you. So
I appreciate that. You know, having that spiritual connection, I know I can't do this alone, right? So knowing that I'm walking on a path, that there's somebody with me, I can't. You know, once again, every day I wake up and I do pray, and I'm grateful for where I'm at today. I'm grateful that I am in recovery. I'm grateful that I get to be able to give hope and inspiration. I'm grateful that, you know, and something else I didn't talk about is being financially secure, right? Like, it's funny how things work out. I was given an opportunity with a company back in January of 2020. You know what, guys? 2 months prior to, so November of 19, I was at church, and the pastor who originally started our congregation came back to do a sermon. And afterwards, I went up to him. I'm like, man, I really got the messages. It made sense. Thank you so much. I just wanted to give him, let him know that I appreciated what he had to say. He just looked at me and he grabbed me by the shoulder and he goes, Jason, God's going to give you a business plan. You're going to be able to make money from it. It's going to be okay. And you're going to be able to help other people. December, I was introduced to this business plan, and I didn't realize what it was, that this was a business plan. I got involved in January. And from January to April, I kind of introduced it to other people because I still wanted to see if it was real and legit. And literally from January of 2020 to January of 2021, I've helped out over 750 people that are in my organization now. I am in a position where I really don't have to work again. So what does that allow me to do? It allows me to focus on other things that I'd like. I love comedy. I've done a couple stand-up routines at the Laugh Shop. Yeah, I love comedy. I love laughing. I want to get back into acting. I used to do that when I was younger, and improv and stuff like that. And
I love improv, Jason. That's my favorite. Stand up. Well, you know, Corey, I'm pretty much a freestyle speaker.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever like practice. I could never go back and like start over where I began. So improv's a lot of fun. I get that.
I agree 100%. So, and then obviously one of the last chapters for me to really become legitimate at what I want to promote is my weight loss. So hammering down, that's why I'm coming on, like, working with Corey, and it's just do it, right? Like, just do it. Instead of sitting back and waiting for the story to come together and to be perfect, I went out of my comfort zone. I talked to Corey, and I'm like, this is something I want to do. Other people might have a program that they might be working with or something that they're offering to other people. Man, I'm just here to give hope and inspiration, right? But eventually, this is going to build. I'm going to get into something different, whether it's going to be motivational speaking, maybe a program that I'm going to help have for other people. I don't know, man, but hey, Blue Talks, the universe, I love it. It's not done with me yet. Like, there's a lot going on for me in my life, and that I'm going to be able to offer to other people. And, even if it's at a small platform through Facebook and Instagram, if I'm reaching one person, I've done my job.
It's 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Remember, you hit one, then they hit one and one. Isn't that the Kevin Bacon thing? Like, all you have to do is one, and then then there's 6 more, and then 6 more, and it could grow from one.
That's it.
One of the things I feel like the theme for this conversation with Jason has been hope, though. I feel like it keeps coming back to, you need to have hope. Like, that's the gift. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like it was the game changer when you finally had hope.
Yeah.
Here's what my life looked like. And it's easier said than done, right? To have hope. But I mean, it seems like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like that's the theme that I've taken away today from what you've been sharing is the power of hope.
100%. And then what do you do with that hope? Where's your mindset? And what do you want to do with your life? And where do you want to go with it? I know for me personally, I want to reach others and help others. Once again, I was given a gift freely, and it just resonates with me. Hockey was my thing in the past. That was the thing that I wanted to do. That was my life. I didn't have any purpose after that, it felt, except I got married. And then I felt it was my marriage. And I felt it was building a family. And then that disappeared. And then I went on a 13-year run of, I don't know what, like I can't even tell you. There's some things that I recollect, but I know it was horrible. So now today to have this revitalization of a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose, right? A sense of wanting to wake up every day, thank my higher power that I have another 24 hours. What am I going to do with it? Right? Where am I going to go? How am I going to progress today to get to where I want to be tomorrow? I know that when I was 500 pounds, I didn't know that I was going to be where I'm at today 3.5 years later, but I know if I put in the work, that if I walked a little bit every day, that I would progressively get better to doing a 5K a day, walking. Eventually I'll be running, right? Jogging a little bit, and I'll take it 1 kilometer at a time until I can get there, right? Even with weight training, I got so much that I can do. I'll lift a little bit more the next time, but I'll knock it out as best as I can today.
I love that.
I know you said, excuse me, right now you're just offering hope and inspiration, but I still want to tell people how they can connect with you. But before we go there, Elise knows my question. We're right down to the wire, but I want to ask you this question because it just feels like everything you said in the last couple of minutes was building towards this question. This is my question. Elise might ask hers, but my question is the time machine question. I don't know if you heard me ask the last guest this, but if you could jump into a time machine and go back and talk to a younger Jason, and you'd know when he'd need this advice the most. But if you could jump in the machine, go back and see him and talk to that younger Jason, what piece of life advice do you think you might give him?
Wow. Well, I know the person 5 years ago would look at the guy today and say how proud he was of the person that I've become. I know that much. I know that if I look back in time to the younger Jason, it would have been simply put in the work, man. Like push through the pain, and don't be afraid to ask for help. You can't.
That's a good one. I like that one.
You can't do this on your own. Like I tried, and
or you don't have to do it on your own. That's the other thing.
Put the ego aside. Put the ego aside. Humble yourself a little bit, and don't be afraid. So, I believe that God's put things, or my higher powers put things in my path, and I can see it today. I couldn't see it back then. I couldn't see what was being placed in front of me and appreciate it. Today I can.
Amazing.
That's awesome. Wait, so I Googled hope. I've never really Googled the word hope before. So want to hear one of the really good definition?
Please.
Grounds for believing that something good may happen.
Boom.
Grounds for believing. It's all about belief that something good may happen.
Yeah.
And that's a really good place to start.
Absolutely.
I always thought hope was kind of wishy-washy. I'm like, set an intention, own it. But hope's a really good entrance into setting intentions and stuff.
Yeah.
Grounds for believing that something good may happen.
So I got to add this in.
I like
John,
it.
you guys know who John C. Maxwell is?
Oh. I've seen it once again a Facebook feed.
John Maxwell?
Speaker, John
right?
Maxwell or John C. Maxwell.
I saw him speak live. He was the keynote speaker in one of my company's events.
So one of his lines that I love is he said, "True leaders are dealers in hope."
I dealt cars for a lot of years. Hope's the next best thing. Let's
Dude,
go.
now you're dealing that believing in something good may happen.
Yeah, 100%. Well, without a doubt, every day I wake up and I'm like, what's going to happen today? Whose life can I change? How's my life going to change? And it's the smallest things. Like I see stuff. The blinders are off. I can appreciate the bird that just flew by. You know what I mean? The sound of the bus, right? Just, wow, that was cool. Or the wind blowing in my face. You know, it's just, I have a new appreciation for life today, you know, where I'm at. So I'm very, very grateful, guys.
Yeah,
Awesome.
you said you can't do it alone, and I'll have to add one little nugget to finish things out. Is I mentioned what my girlfriend went through, and again, I won't share any of her story because it's hers to share, but I'll just say 3 of her friends, in her opinion and mine based on her story, are the reason she's here today as well. You know, she was at the end, and 3 people helped her, and then she went into a treatment center, and she had to go to detox first. And so, to your point, Jason, which I think is important for people to know, she didn't ask for help, but I think she was asking for help, if you know what I mean. In other words, she didn't verbally say, help me, but they heard her cry for help. And to your point, we can't do it alone. I mean, I think that's a big takeaway as well from this interview. And we shouldn't have to.
Well, we don't have to.
Yeah, but that's the other side.
That's why we're all here. If we were supposed to do it alone, it would just be you, Jason, or just be me, or just be Corey. Like, it's like a team thing, you know, it's fun. Like, you know, when you have fun together, listen, hockey player, right? How could there be a hockey league if it was just one hockey player? You even need another team. If there's no volley, there's no game.
Even Gretzky couldn't assist his own goals. Probably he couldn't hit it one end and grab it the other end.
Right?
If he had Connor McDavid's speed, possibly.
Yeah, he might be that combination might be the one. But to Lisa's point,
if there's no volley, there's no game.
Yeah.
So like I said, I've heard, I don't know why, I'm usually not, as Lisa knows, I'm usually not in the themes, but I've heard some themes come up, and I just wanted to share my takeaway is that, you know, that theme about the power of hope and the team. Like, I love you guys may have heard it or not, I'm not sure, the acronym team, what it stands for. Have you guys ever heard anything the team stands for? Like,
a couple of them, but what's yours?
Together, everyone achieves more. Perfect.
Well, there you go.
And so to that point, I think, yeah, for me, you don't have to do it alone, and nobody and a lot of people don't want you to. They want to help. People are there to help, and if you have hope, that's everything.
Believing in something
there's no I in team.
Yes, there's no I in team.
Well, there's got to be I's in team, though. Otherwise, there's no team.
I's, yes, but the letter I. No, I
know. I know. I was just saying.
I know.
Like, you are included. Is there a you in team?
I don't. This all depends probably on how you spell team, I guess.
Right, there you go.
Well, that's true too.
So, Jason, I said the last thing I want to know is, even though you said you're not really, quote unquote, you don't have a program to sell or anything like that, I think people would still like to reach out to you. You never know, who, as you said, who you could be helping today.
Yeah, just conversation.
Yeah, I have done a few public speaking events, right, where I've gone out and talked on my story, and something that I'm obviously wanting to get into. As time grows and I build my brand, is getting in and doing some motivational speaking, right, and just and really giving hope and inspiration to others. And there's a community of people, whether it's ex-hockey players that are in the minors. Like, there's never anything that can that's out there that I know of anyway, that after you're done playing a professional sport at whatever level it is, it prepares you for life afterwards, right, and what to expect and where to
You just honed in on your target audience.
Yeah, a lot of guys, depression, marital issues, looking to get back into where they were at as an athlete and having that fame and fortune or fun. And, once you're gone, that all kind of, that's not there anymore.
Identity crisis.
Yeah, you can't eat the same. You can't, you're not hanging out with the same people. The people don't treat you the same. Just so many different things. And no matter at what level you're at, even in the minors, and you get out of that, like, you just change. Like, you got to find yourself and who you are. And there's nothing that prepares you.
It's like growing pains, and they hurt.
Yeah.
So you just niched up right there. I love that for you.
Yeah,
seriously, because one of the things that we started with when we had this conversation is that you really didn't have a good coach. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? You're on a hockey team. Did you lose all the games? But you were talking like a mentor coach.
Correct.
Like, so what if you become that coach for the players that needed a you when that person wasn't there?
That's the idea. Honestly, it is. And to talk to others, thanks to Facebook, I've been able to reconnect with a lot of guys that I played in the minor leagues with, and I want to talk to them about their stories and put something together where we could all help other people. And I was going to talk to you, Corey, about that outside of here. Just because I've seen what you're doing with your Blue Talks book and how you're putting it together. It would be pretty amazing to put a book together, minor league hockey players, and do chapters on their lives to help other people coming up in the game for what they can expect. Something I was thinking
You can
about.
call it Up Your Game.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it. And yeah, let's circle back on that because I have some friends also on the coaching side that are, well, one that runs a coaching school that's really high up. And and that's something I bet you he'd love to be involved with. And
Awesome.
A lot of the pros. So yeah, let's circle back on that for sure.
So then if anybody wants to get in touch with me on Facebook, Jason Carriere, you can also email me at the letter J, Carriere, Carriere, 32 at yahoo.ca. I'm in Instagram under universalwealth.cfx. So there's three places you can get a hold of me at. And yeah, if anybody's looking for somebody who understands a little bit about recovery and addictions, I'm always there to help. And I've got a team of people behind me that I also call upon as pillars and to help, that know a lot more about this than I do, that are always available.
Awesome.
So, Jason, awesome stuff. And I just want to add before you run that Paul Empey, you might want to look in the comments for this, just send a note. Hi, Jason, would love to introduce you to Joe DePenta as he struggled as well. So
okay, cool.
You guys should circle back and connect afterward. But yeah, if you go look at the comments, I think it's probably right on my main page, then just connect with Paul. He's a good dude. And he's actually, I think he's presenting this week. Yeah, he's on Thursday, and he's in the new Blue Talks book with you as well. So
nice.
Anyway, but yeah, so just if you want, circle back with Paul because he made that connection already.
Right on.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, and Jason, if you could just hop on to the Blue Talks Flip Your Script page, the group on Facebook, and put in the comments all that contact information that you shared. For those that go back and watch the replay there, they'll have your contact information should they be inspired to reach out.
Perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
And I'll let you know that somebody commented on your post. She'll see it anyway, saying she couldn't get into to watch this. So just let her know the replay is going to stay up. So
awesome.
So thank you so much, Jason. This has been a pleasure. We'll let you run, but we'll call it a to be continued, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
Great meeting you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to bring our next guest right on. We're a couple minutes over, so I want to bring her right on. So
I didn't even know we had 4 guests today, Corey. I'm so excited. We have one more.
Yes.
Right.
More great energy. Awesome.
Hi.
Hi.
I know you've been behind the scenes. I've been watching you, so I can see each person's. I can see the videos behind. So I knew you were here waiting for us. So
No worries.
And Kate, I never asked you this before, so now I'm gonna. I could just pretend if I wanted to pretend I didn't know. I could just go, "Thanks, Kate," and not say your last name at all. But I don't know the pronunciation of your last name, and I know I'm gonna butcher it if I try. But
Well, here's the funny thing. I don't even know how to pronounce my last name correctly. So
I definitely would probably get it wrong.
Is it
then.
the one you were born with or that you married into?
no, it's my married name. My husband is Asian. And so he always told me, because no one pronounces it right, it's just Nguy. His whole family introduced themselves as Nguy. So just as it's spelled.
I was going to say, by the way, that was
anyone who tries to say the Chinese version of it just butchers it. So he's like, let's not even bother. So yeah, it's always funny because people are always trying to pronounce it correctly with me. And I was like, I don't know. Let's just go with Nguy.
So it's funny because I said I was going to pronounce it wrong, and I theoretically was because I was going to say Nguy. That was my only guess that I had.
What were you going to say?
It's got to be wrong.
Nguy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my guess.
Yeah.
So you don't actually have the actual pronunciation of it then?
He's tried teaching me, but he says that I always do it wrong, even though I think I'm doing it right. So, but seriously, he has 5 siblings and they all introduce themselves with Nguy as their last name because they're like, we give up. We've been in Canada for 40 years and no one got it yet. So.
Wow. All right. So I'm glad I brought it up because I don't feel bad now. At least I'm not the only person in Canada that struggled with it.
It's so funny because I think it's the one thing that makes it comical of working with me now because it I guess in some ways my last name is what starts to bring out my sense of humor a bit because I don't even know how to spell my own or say my own last name. So
That's awesome. I love that. You know what? I'll say one quick thing and then move away from the last name thing. But my girlfriend was married before, and they've since divorced. But I couldn't pronounce her her married last name. Her maiden name, which she took back, is Rogerson. Super easy. But the other one, I won't try to say that name, but I butchered it every time. So I'd have to. She still was using the name when we got together. So her passport, everything said that. So they'd ask me, and what's her last name? And I'd be like, I couldn't get it right. And it's not even probably not as hard as your last name would be. But anyway, yeah. So I get it totally. I couldn't say Bruce.
Well, it's nice meeting you, Kate.
Yeah.
Nguy.
Welcome. So, Kate, we usually ask the person to tell us a little bit about themselves. We already get to know a little bit about you already. But, Kate, where we like to get started is, though, to get people to tell us just a little bit about their journey, their backstory, whatever feels comfortable to them. We're going to dive in deeper, as you've seen. But if you just were to tell somebody a little bit about your background that's rather meeting you for the first time today, what would you perhaps tell them?
That's a good question.
Because I don't really know you, so just pretend you're talking, introducing yourself to me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that I truly represent somebody who is a recovering perfectionist, who really had an idea in mind that I had to show up in life a certain way, so that way I would have status or a title. I share in my new Blue Talks chapter that's going to be released here about how I used to be in pre-law and now I'm a yoga teacher. So but it just really kind of goes into a little bit of my personality of that, I was one of those high achievers that felt like I had to be on this certain path, but not because it felt right for me, but it felt right that I was symbolically something for somebody else. And so part of my journey was really deconstructing these ideas in my head of how I had to be more in order to be enough, and how I had to come into play or into terms of really being okay with being what I was meant to be, to be that guide for people on a different level, and to show up in a different way. So I always tell people that what I do, because I often get asked, what do you do? And so what I do is I help women to radically defy their stories so that they can come into their authentic truth, so that they can rediscover themselves and to show up in their most authentic version. Because that's really what my life journey has been. It's been, thinking I should be something, then changing that, then thinking I should be something else, then feeling uncomfortable with not being enough or not being the right title, to now just being like, I'm me. So, and maybe that's the transition.
And oh my gosh, it was me all along. Even while I was trying to figure it out, I was still me. That was me. That was me trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because I figured Elise and Kate will hit it right off, because whenever I was just preparing the other day and I saw your Facebook banner, and where the part where it talked about defining our stories and stuff. Elise talks all the time about restorying, and how to flip our script and
restory. What is this limited? What is this subconscious script that keeps overriding everything that doesn't feel right, or everything that does feel right, or right? There's that subconscious script that just plays no matter how much we try to overthink it, doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. No, it's so very true. So very true. Yeah.
Yep. It gets louder and louder. What was Trish talking? Was it Trish that was talking about? She had colitis or some stomach issues. And when she worked through all of it, the body was like, okay, we can ease up now,
Mm-hmm.
So.
And just to maybe jump in off a little script here.
Go ahead.
This morning's talk with Trish, when you were take cow dung and turn that in, that was the best visualization for me. I was like, yes.
That's a little flip your scriptism right there. That's so I've created these little flip your script reminder bands that when we think thoughts, they're like seeds that we plant in our fertile mind, and they start growing into the life we're living, or the life we're loving or not loving ourselves in. So I try to come up with these analogies of, if I have clients who are more, musical or this or that, or foodies, what's your signature dish? I talk about that. So I'm like, just take I know I already said shit once, but I won't say it again.
I love
All right, well, I
he's
won't
finding
say it
ways to
again.
bring that word in again.
Well, it is. It's like the cow dung. It's the thought manure that we have, or the experience manure that we can use to fertilize what we want to grow, how we want to grow our life, and how we want to grow in our lives.
Mhm.
So yeah, feel free to use your dung to fertilize the life you want to grow.
I just love how you say you say. Okay, I'm not going to use the word shit again.
I'm not going to use the word shit again because you're not allowed, because we're on social media.
I don't know I honestly don't know with Facebook if they have any.
Well, we didn't get beeped out on StreamYard, so I don't know if they bleep you on the other end.
I guess we'll find out. Maybe this is our way to find out. But anyway, I love how you inserted it to see if you could say it. So, but
I had practice with my son. I know you didn't ask me for my opinion, but if you did ask me, this is what I would say.
That's a brilliant way to insert your opinion.
I'm telling you, use it with your kids. I still use it. He's 26. I know. Sometimes he asks my opinion and he goes, I know what you're going to tell me. Just follow my gut. That was really my go. Follow your gut. Whatever my opinion is, if it's not resonating with your gut rules, right? Because your gut's not my gut. And he wasn't very good at taking compliments, like even to this day. And I'm like, I know you didn't ask. I know you're not good at compliments, but if you were, this would be the compliment I would give you. So I insert the compliment, even though, like in a way.
I'd never butt in, but if I were the type to butt in, here's what I would do.
Exactly. So he's actually been a huge inspiration to helping people flip their script. For me, I just had this aha. I'm sharing it. Is because I had to learn how to speak Dre. My son's name is Andre. I had to learn how to speak his language to be able to communicate with him in a way that my intention was received by him the way I intended it. And so I realized this has been a whole career, my whole life. I've been learning how to do that without taking from him or making him feel like he was broken, right? So yeah. So anyway, take the S word and insert where you would like to insert.
Love it. I guess this is one of my questions I go to a lot because it intrigues me, probably because of doing so many interviews to try to learn what makes people tick and what people have in common and don't. But I guess what I'd love to hear is your thoughts on what do you see as a common thing when people come to you or are working with you? Like, is there a common thing you see in traits or personality, something you could watch for that ends up them, like you said, maybe doing stuff for other people or going down that path that they wouldn't normally go down themselves?
Well, I'd say that the common denominator for women that come to seek me out and to bring me on as a guide, I don't know if I coach, maybe guide, is that they feel broken. Our world and our medical system, the way that it's set up, is set up in a way that is so clinical and dry that it just makes you feel like you are nothing, or that you're worthless, or that you're broken and unfixable on your own. Like, they really take the magic out of the human body and out of the human experience about really shifting and creating magic. Like, we all have a source of magic within us, and we just need to believe in it. And when we have service providers that are telling us that there's no hope, it gets kind of barren and lucky. It doesn't feel good. And
every time I hear hope now, I'm going to think that there's nothing to believe in. No, wait, grounds for believing that something good may happen. So they take that away. They take away the grounds for believing that something good may happen.
Which is really true, because when they come to me, they feel so unrooted. Like, they feel like they're in an abyss where it's like, what do I do? Like, there is no hope. And so my job, or what I see, what I've declared as my job, is to reclaim that hope, to show them a different way to exist, to give them an ability to tap into their own inner wisdom. And, we all have tools of how to get people to tap into their wisdom. And I use the menstrual cycle because I work with women. Like, any men that are on here, I'm sorry, but this will be good information for you to be a great partner. So
listen up.
Yeah. So listen up, take this home with you. But I use the menstrual cycle because a feminine body, the female body, we have so much information in us. We are cyclical, meaning that we are always shifting and changing and, growing and, they say that this is why women might be living longer than men, is that every month we have a purification system going through our bodies. So, but we're not taught this. We're not taught that we can tap in to our own inner healing capabilities through our hormones to be able to shift our experience, to actually be able to heal our body. And I'm not just talking fertility. I am talking so that we're not going through drastic menopausal shifts. I'm talking about like even healing like thyroid issues. Like we have so much capability in our body to heal ourselves, but then we're told you don't. And so that's really disheartening. And so majority of the clients that I do work with are fertility based, because I think that that is like this extreme brokenness that makes people really question life and question their why. And so I see a majority of my clients are probably fertility related. Although as this message keeps getting out, I'm getting more and more people curious, and I'm seeing more shifts in the world where people are starting to explore their body and explore how they can heal themselves through their own innate wisdom. So it's pretty cool.
I mean,
Wow.
we are designed to be well.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about life, like life is not perfect. Life is not well, I shouldn't say life's not supposed to, but life really isn't a one-way path of like you're born and everything perfectly is going to happen for you and you're just going to excel with no lessons, right? I think like these opportunities that we go through are really these hidden gems or gifts for us to expand. But when we're told that expansion isn't a thing or that healing isn't a thing, it really is not pleasant.
Well, and that's the medical, people are like, I'm working for health insurance. I'm like, it's medical insurance. They joke. I'm always like, it's medical insurance. It's medical care you're getting. Like, it's not health care. Let's just be clear on where you're going. You go to Home Depot. Well, we have Home Depot. Do you have Home Depot in Canada? Okay, I don't know. So you go to Home Depot not to buy milk, eggs, and, organic spinach. You're not going to get it there. Right. And if you go to like Aldi, do y'all have Aldi or Trader Joe's or something? All right. Whatever your supermarket is, you're not going to get stuff to build a new roof. So if you go to the medical industry, this is their message. But there are yous and I's and Corys, and there's plenty of beings that recognize the power of who we are and how we heal. So it's like, if you're going to go to that store, don't expect to get that. That store's for a broken bone, and they'll put that bone in place. But what's healing? Your body's healing. That they're just making sure that your body's healing in that it's connecting in the right way.
Yeah.
So the medical industry is for repair.
That's a good way of putting it. Yes, it's for repair. It's for
you go to a repair shop. You don't go to buy a new car at a repair shop, or you might, but it's used. But never mind. That was a bad analogy. But you get my gist, right?
I do. Yes. I feel like the medical system, it's great in what it does, and there's a place for it. Like, I don't know if either of you have ever watched the Heal documentary on Netflix. Yeah. It's one of my favorites.
It was funny that you were going there because, what I was thinking about while you were talking right now, and I don't mean like I was thinking about like the weather. I mean, like I was literally thinking about a comment from the Heal documentary, because I just started rewatching it last night for a whole separate reason. But she talked about how when she was a kid, she was fascinated by how when you got cut, you didn't have to do anything and the body just healed itself. So anyway, as you guys are saying this, that popped into my head that second before you said, have you seen the Heal documentary? I just there's a synchronicity there for some reason. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and it saved my life. It's a repair shop. I had a twisted intestine. They had to go in and untwist it, like, physically burst appendix. You go in and then the body heals around that. So the body is designed to be well. It's just that the medical system is set up the way it is, and it's very powerful and has a lot of branding money.
Yeah.
So you had a point about the Heal documentary. I don't want to get
sorry, go back.
There was just a comment on the Heal documentary, and I can't remember who it was that said it, but they said doctors are put in place because if you break your leg, you want them to fix it. You're not going to rely on like power of thought. Well, maybe you could for a broken leg, but like if you need instant surgery, then yes, that's what they're built to do. But if you have an imbalance in your body, that's your body's way of talking to you that you need to figure out what your root cause is, what that is, right? And so it's not that we can just say, go away, medical world, but it is that, they're a quick fix. They are something that is built to repair and fix something, but through quick reactive measures, not through deep inquiry, right?
Exactly. They're not so that's not I wouldn't go to them to help me manage my well-being. Okay. And they are great managers. If you want chronic pain, you can go and get your chronic pain managed. But why would you want to manage that? That's a waste of time and energy. Like, I don't even like it to begin with. And I want to keep it managed. No.
I think
so. Yeah. What?
I was just gonna say, I feel like, because I remember that scene, I feel like it was Dr. Bruce Lipton who said that. I just want to put that out there. I think it might have been him.
I thought it was too.
But I feel like it was Bruce Lipton. But the other thing I was going to say, have you guys heard of this? And I heard it through other people more than once, so I think it's true, but I've never Googled it. But I was told that in China and Japan, or one or both, the process is the doctors get paid by how healthy you are. So if you don't come back as often, they get bonuses. And if it is, or somebody made that up, that's a great idea. Whether it's true or whether
we should just do it anyway.
Let's just do it.
But the medical industry gets blamed for a lot, and fingers pointed and used as an excuse for why somebody feels the way they do. I went to the doctor and they didn't know. How could you expect somebody to know you better than you know yourself? That's unfair to begin with. You know what I mean? Well, if you get a lot of, I think that this is what it is. I'm like, well, who are you waiting for to know? Are you waiting for somebody else to validate your think so you can now own it as I know that this is where it's coming from? It's kind of funny to think that the way that we think that somebody else is going to know more than we know. And
like for myself, I come from a really small town. That's where I was raised. And for me, medicine was it. If something was wrong, you just went. I don't even think we had a naturopathic doctor. Besides a massage therapist, I think that was the limit of how woohoo we got in our town. But it wasn't until I went through my fertility journey, because I had 3 ectopic pregnancies. And after the second ectopic pregnancy, when I went to go see the doctor, their first response was, well, let's just remove all your tubes so that way it doesn't happen again. And we'll go right to IVF. And my husband's an engineer. And I remember him walking out going, okay, well, this is what they said we need to do. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. Why would I remove my body parts to solve the problem? And I think that was the first time in my whole entire life that I ever questioned medicine, where I was like, you know what? I'm going to slow down. There's got to be a different way. This doesn't feel good. And I went on to heal my body, so much so that when they went and did a test in my remaining tube, because I only had one left, there was no scar tissue, no swelling. The doctor even said, are you sure you've had an ectopic pregnancy? And I was like, I've had 2 in this tube. So it was all the power of the mind, right? It was a lot of things, but when I really reflect on it, it was believing that possibility could happen.
Anything is possible when you believe it is. That's what I'm going to have in the sky when I transition. If anyone needs to know right now, you guys, that's my tagline. Anything is possible when you believe it is.
This is a part of your will. So if Elliot says, I don't believe that's what she wanted, we can go back to this and say, here's what she told us.
Exactly. Anything is possible when you believe it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is the first time I thought of it this way. Maybe it's because of the analogies or the metaphors Elise has been dropping as well about the mechanics of it and stuff. But for whatever reason, I just had that visual of the mechanic who goes and looks at your car and says, I think it's one of these 3 things based on it being there, is almost the same as the doctor saying, it's one of 3 or 4 things based on what you're showing me. It's kind of the same thing, really.
Exactly. Well, it is, because anyway, it's a whole other story.
It goes to the point of cars today are very complex. Our bodies are very complex, in fairness. And if you look at the symptoms of certain things outside of what maybe healers know, but if you look in general at the symptoms, it could say, well, if you have these symptoms, you have this, but they overlap. The symptoms overlap. So it could be one of three things
But
you could.
these are humans. They're
I know.
doctors are just, we're all human. We just have, and they're educated to look for this. A mechanic's educated to look for this. Like I wouldn't have a mechanic come and do my plumbing in my house. Like we have to take responsibility. We have an opportunity to take responsibility for who we go to. And you mentioned one thing, Kate, and I feel like it brought something up in me that I want to start tapping out, but I'm not going to start tapping right now, is when you said woo woo, like, and you say that a lot too, Corey, and I just want to be clear right now, like when we say woo woo, I feel like we are really like doing doing something a disservice. It's
Very true.
We need to cut it out, all of us right now. Woo woo my ass. Oh, I said that. That's okay though, right?
Well, and I'll add this to what you just said, though, Elise. I think, and this is just my personal opinion.
You say it a lot, Corey.
I do, and when
No more woo woo.
no, but listen, I say to people, I want to clarify when I say woo woo, I don't mean this. Like I go out of my way, but I also feel it's the meaning we put to the words. It's meaning, do I put a negative or a positive word to woo? I think woo is awesome. I love it. I think of it like the same way I would think of Waldorf school when they talk about sending the kids out to learn about fairy.
My son went to Waldorf school.
I
get it, but there's a general kind of definition. It's a vibe. It's a feeling that when we say woo woo, it's kind of like, what do you think really woo woo? Do you think that like a lawyer or an accountant or a medical doctor, does it give it the same credibility?
Not at all.
That we're giving to an industry that really isn't benefiting well-beings.
No, it's true. It's
so true.
It's like new age versus.
So let's find another term that demands a little bit more integrity.
Yeah,
there's a lack of integrity, I feel, that comes with woo-woo.
Well, see, I struggle with new age because it's not new age. Friggin' the old
stuff is old.
That's what I'm saying. Like
is old.
Like, how can you say 3,000 or 5,000 years ago meditating or practicing yoga without a mat because they didn't exist is new age?
Well, I feel like there's an industry that the same industry that we've been talking about really has done a lot of marketing and branding to make us to bring new age out and have that be, what is the word I'm looking for? Sort of like discredited. It almost discredits. That's the word I'm looking for. The validity and the life-changing, game-changing opportunity for every single one of us to use everything that we've been born with to be the creator of everything that we want in this world, because that's why we're here. Health, well-being, finance, happiness, and fulfillment included. And when we woo-woo it and new age it and make it like whatever, because we don't want, it really discredits the power that we all have within us. And that was my little.
I want to add one more thing.
Where'd that come from?
I want to circle back to you, Kate, but I just wanted to add one more thing to that, which made me think of, Elise, is I was in the store. This is a super quick story, but I was in the store a number of years ago, and a lady was looking at the bananas. And it was, the bananas were set up so they were organic and non-organic next to each other. And she grabbed the organic and went, oh, organic. And she threw them back. And then she went and grabbed the regular bananas. And I told this to a friend of mine who has two farm-to-table restaurants. And she said, isn't it interesting how we went and gave this name organic to real food, and then we name the food that has pesticides in it real food? Like, in other words, what she's saying is organic really is what we had all along. So shouldn't we negatively name the stuff that's not organic versus naming organic food organic?
Okay, there you go.
Does that make sense?
Exactly what I'm saying.
That's
exactly what I'm sharing. It was a message that came through me to all of us here that we need to find a term that commands attention and the power it deserves.
True.
Well, and I recently had a guest speaker on in my coaching program that I offer, and she's a herbalist, and she was like, you know what, one thing that really bugs me is people call all of these modalities alternative therapies. And she was like,
put that in the list with woo woo.
Well, she was like, we were the first ones. Like, we have been doing plant stuff way longer than Western medicine. So Western medicine is the alternative medicine. This is the
right.
medicine.
So let's do this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna flip the script. Yeah. We're going to flip the whole script. Medical is alternative, and everything else that we can extract from who we are from the inside out, and that's nature given, is mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. So
All right, I'll write a book about it, or have a stage about it, or do an event about it, or something to start. Or we'll just have a retreat here at Manatee Landing retreat about it.
absolutely. I love it. And so, Kate, as we start to wind down, I think we have about 8 to 10 minutes left. As we start to wind down, I wanted to ask you, because I want to still dive a bit deeper into the work that you do. So when clients are working with you, and I'm always curious about the aha, but let's just say in general, what is the first thing, or what are the things they comment and noticing after they start releasing the stories that they've been telling, other people's stories they've been telling themselves should be theirs? What is it like that's so relaxing or relieving to finally feel like I can be my authentic self? I'm just curious what they seem to experience, or what are the things they tell you?
Well, once again, I work with women. And so I would say the first thing, like within a few weeks of working with me, their ability to connect to the energy behind their cycle. So starting to label their cycle differently is what is transformational for them. I think each and every one of them are like, oh, that makes sense. Because part of what I teach and part of what I guide is that it's not just labeling things. It's not just like this part of my cycle is ovulation. This one is menstruation. Rather, it's like this part of my cycle is where I am outgoing. This is where my energy is. And I should be social. I should be like on talks right now. This is when I'm going to do my public speaking because I am charismatic because of my hormones. Versus like in your late luteal, just before you're going into menstruation, where we would normally call ourselves PMSing, it's because our body's actually asking us to take time for us, to wind down, to be creative, to not be social at all. Like this is our introverted self really crying for us to connect. And so when women start to see how their hormones have energy behind them, and it actually demands them to show up differently in their life each week, it's like this gift, because then all of a sudden they're way more productive because they're like, oh, I got all this stuff done because I realized that rather trying to like be linear and do it every day and just continuing to do it every day and pretending like I don't have a cycle was of a disservice. Plus, it helps them to identify in their body in a different way, rather than these negative terms of PMSing or, really resenting bleed times. They're able to connect to their body and see how to nourish it and how to support it. And they really do have huge effects and quickly in their healing journey by just being able to tap into that energy.
Oh my gosh, I wish I would have known that. I'm not even going to say how long ago, but... Does it still work even when that moment has passed?
It does, because we still have a womb space. At one point, that womb energy was going through. And the more that you get into the ancient teachings of what a menstrual cycle is that it has archetypes, and those archetypes exist in us until we die. And so what the essence of them are still there, and we still flow with that energy, even though we don't have the significant symptom of a bleed time to show that.
I am going to give you a chat because I recognize it with the new moon for me. Like it's like in the new moon, whole different version of me shows up. But, I get busy and I'm so social right now. And I'm recognizing that I'm really that the version of me that just needs to like sit in quiet right now isn't getting the attention she really deserves.
No, totally. And the beautiful thing that I think about starting to tap into this is that we become very forgiving with ourselves. And I think that's one thing my clients really start to appreciate is that they realize they can't be the same person every day of the month, that they have to show up differently. And when they honor that, they feel connected. They feel so much better. They feel connected with their body. I think that's the key. Is they're connected with themselves, right? And that's where the beauty happens. I have one client who recently just shared in one of our group coaching calls that at work now, she tells everyone on her team, because she's a manager, she tells everyone on her team, she's like, listen, this is where I'm at in my cycle, and this is what you're getting from me. I have low vocabulary because I'm past ovulation. I have this. And the guys always feel uncomfortable. And she always tells them, listen, you need to know this stuff. So
right,
this is what you can ask of me, and this is what you can't ask of me this week. So.
That's so funny that you use the term tapping in, because I have the Recognize, Release, Restore, and the release is I'm an EFT practitioner, so I actually literally help people tap into that part of them. So when you say tap into, I'm like, oh wow, that resonates. So Kate, I'm going to be reaching out.
Yeah,
have
please
a little
do.
chit chat. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kate, I have my last question.
And where am I reaching out? Is that the next question?
Well, that's
Oh.
2 questions from now.
Okay.
So I have a quick question for you that I ask everybody. You probably heard me ask, and then I want to ask you, of course, as Elise just revealed the question of how we can learn more. I will just add comments. A couple of comments I saw just in passing. A person put, "Believe in your own magic, love it." But then another person, I can't seem to find out who put it because it doesn't show the name. Woo woo my ass. So I'm just
woo woo my ass. That's what the shirt hashtag woo woo my ass.
but I wanted to see who it was because I want to give them a shout out, but I can't find it. But having said that, Kate, my last official question is the time machine question, which is basically, if you heard it earlier, just if you could jump back into a time machine, go talk to a younger Kate, sit across from her, give her 1 or 2 pieces of life advice. What do you think you might tell her?
I would go back to that Kate that was probably either just before my first bleed time, so in that puberty state, or during that time, to quit being ashamed of it. Because this is what we need to start teaching the younger generation, is that this is happening physically in your body for a reason. It is actually a messenger of information, and it is not something to be dreaded. It's not something to be hiding. And if men are uncomfortable with it, well, then that's their shit to deal with.
And they're not your guy.
That's
And
your
she
stuff.
said shit too. See, it's not just
Yeah,
me.
it seems to be today's the day for that.
But honestly, like, it makes other people feel uncomfortable, which then makes the younger generation feel like they have to hide it or there's something to be ashamed of. And we need to flip the script on that.
Yes.
We need to tell the younger generation, like, this is something to be celebrating. This is now how you use this power within yourself, because that's
I
really
think
what
it's
it
a
is.
super, like, I love that.
Yeah.
It's a superpower.
Yeah.
And don't watch the movie Carrie because that movie kind of created some of the stuff, perhaps.
Oh, that's so dated. That's not even this generation. What the generation she's talking about probably doesn't even know what you're talking about.
No, but they redid it 2 times since.
Did they really?
Oh yeah, there's
wow.
Anyway, so my point is, though, that movie did a disservice. You're talking about a disservice.
Yeah.
It was obviously wasn't meant to be a movie that's educating people, but it popped in my head when you said about the shame behind it, because that whole movie was about shaming her because of it. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. There's a book that I absolutely love. It's called The Female Brain by Luann, I want to say Brezendine, maybe.
Okay.
But in there, she talks about if we were working with the younger generation, and if we were a society that was set up to really support girls going through the puberty shift, that, when we are just after our bleed days up until ovulation, our vocabulary is super strong. If you really want girls to succeed, test them then. Ask them to do their public speaking events then. But if you ask them to do it while they're menstruating, already because in puberty, our hormones are so crazy, because our body doesn't know, it doesn't understand. It's like, what is this new thing pulsating through me? It literally has never been exposed to it until that shift happens. And so the body is internally trying to figure stuff out. And so when it's trying to figure it out, it's confused. And so if you test them while they're bleeding, they're more likely to fail or do less than because of it, which is only going to play into their self-esteem. And so then if we're talking about mental health stuff and talking about mental health with our teens, like, we need to teach them how to understand their body, because we aren't set up in a school system where we could probably honor that, but we could give them some forgiveness within themselves of saying, you know what, I got 55 on that test, but I was bleeding, so it's totally okay, right? Rather than going, I'm worthless, I am dumb, I am stupid. Like, there's so much wisdom in our body, but we have to start teaching our youth it.
Wow.
Our bodies are.
Go, girl. I love that. I love that. And I'm listening to, like, mental health. That's another term that gets a bad rap. Let's just put it that way. So, one of the terms that I've sort of flipped is it's basically our mental and emotional hygiene. Because when we have emotional plaque buildup, that's when it builds into disease. And that plaque starts from conception. And that's all it is emotional plaque buildup. You get plaque, you get gingivitis, you get emotional plaque buildup, you can get diabetes or arthritis or cancer or whatever it is. And where's that emotional plaque building up? But if we were taught emotional and mental hygiene as children, along with what you're talking about, then we're talking about growing a world of well-beings, because we have this understanding. We're nutritional hygiene, we go workout hygiene, but where's that emotional and mental hygiene? You send a kid to a therapist, they think they're broken, and you're already like, I don't want to say it, But anyway,
Well, there's a, yeah.
you're sending the kid and they think they're broken. Now you just totally messed up the self-concept and the whole thing starts to grow.
I think to that point, a lot of the stuff we're talking about today probably could use some work. It's just like, it's weird because we talked about mental health earlier, which, obviously is why
Hygiene.
Mental hygiene earlier. And then, but the other thing is, we're talking with Jason, and my girlfriend, as I mentioned, has gone through it. My mother went through it. But alcoholism is a negative stigma.
And it's a whole symptom.
But people don't think of it as a disease. They just think of it as, you just quit. Why don't you just stop drinking? Like, people that don't understand it. And by the way, I'm a person that never had, my father would never sort of acknowledge it. My grandfather was an alcoholic, my mother, my girlfriend, and I somehow was the one that wasn't. And I can go out and have a drink. I haven't had a drink in 6 years. I quit the day that her and I get together. But I could go out and have a drink and not crave it again at all. Mm-hmm. But my point is that I didn't understand it until I got really into it with people in my life. And so my point about that is that there is this negative stigma because 90% of the world doesn't understand why the other 10% basically can't just go out and have a drink and casually have a drink and move on.
I have a question now, Corey, and I know we're towards the end of our, and I didn't want to bring it up in the midst of like the whole thing with Jason, but if alcoholism is a disease, and we are talking about how the body heals our disease, is that something when the symptom and the root is actually healed? Not that I'm promoting drinking alcohol, but my point is that I have clients and I have family members who actually have healed the root of why they decided to take that route because something wasn't right in themselves. And when they were able to actually heal what that was, they can come out and maybe they'll have a glass of wine to celebrate. It's not the disease. They don't have that disease anymore because the root of it was healed. And I'm just saying that's another approach to look at. It's just another way of looking at it. If it is a disease, if addiction is a disease, you're only addicted to it because you're out of alignment.
Yeah, well,
and you're thinking that maybe that'll help, but it's not working.
And I don't know the answer to that because that's a really big area. But what I would say is the bigger side of that, or to me, when I hear that, the bigger side I think of, I totally understand if it started because of something that happened in your life. And most alcoholics would say something, there was a trigger or something goes back to in their earlier life that they used that as an escape or different things. And again, I'm not speaking from personal experience, but I'm speaking from people who've told me that. But I guess the other side is, some of those people don't go down the path of getting that healing. So if they don't go down the path of getting that healing,
absolutely,
or they don't understand what you're saying, or they're not open to it and they don't go down that path, for some people, it might be that they have to find a way to cope without having it in their life.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good point. I have a question for Kate. I know we're going a little bit over, but so Kate, on a personal note, what happened with this journey? So you didn't get the surgery. So
Nope.
Tell me.
Within just over a year, we got successfully pregnant with my daughter.
That's what I wanted to know.
Which, this is I'm going to share this because I'm going to take a little bit more time because I feel like this is an important tidbit of information. So I got pregnant with my daughter. And you know how we were talking about like the negative terminology that medicine puts on you to disempower you. It was halfway through that pregnancy that we discovered that I had an incompetent cervix, medical diagnosis, incompetent cervix. Doesn't sound pleasant at all. It really just means that my body wasn't strong enough to hold the baby in, which then put me into a spiral fear of like, I've worked at this for so long and now I'm going to lose my dream. So I had to flip my script. I had to rename it. It was no longer an incompetent cervix. Like that, it was a disgusting name.
Yeah.
And then I did all the same things. I just showed up for my body. That baby stayed until 38 weeks and she was supposed to come at 20 weeks. So
that's awesome.
Power of the mind. And then shortly, like 10 months post her being born, I got pregnant again. Second daughter, once again, same diagnosis, of course. But I truly wanted to see if I could show up with my body the same way. And she was born at 31 weeks. So she did come early. And I remember my acupuncturist at the time was working with me on daily affirmations. And I had made this whole string that I hung over my mirror in my bathroom of all these different affirmations that I'd read to myself all the time. And I remember like my husband doesn't believe in a lot of this stuff. So I remember when she was born at 31 weeks and him being like, so do you even think that worked? And I was like, hell yeah, she could have come at 24 weeks and she wouldn't have been viable. So, the universe gave me something that was viable and I can deal with this. I can deal with the NICU. And here's the thing, 31 weeks, they do not have the coordination to breathe, suck, and swallow at the same time. She was breastfeeding within 4 days. They're not supposed to have that till 30
Did you go to your
weeks.
husband? I think it worked.
Yeah, exactly. So we were released from the hospital when she was almost 33 weeks. Let me
What
think.
size was
Yeah,
she?
almost
She was
33.
like a little nothing.
She was 3 pounds. When we were released, she was 4 pounds. And the doctors were like, we shouldn't be releasing you, but she's not on any machines. She's breastfeeding all of her food on her own, which she shouldn't be doing. She's sleeping. Like, there's nothing. We can't keep you here. And I was like, see you later. Release me.
I'm going to take my little peanut and go home.
Yeah. And they're like, you know what? Alberta Health Services is going to contact you and they're going to be freaked out because they've never seen a baby this little at home, but you're doing everything you need to do. And she's thriving. Like, she doesn't know that she's 33 weeks. So we were sent home. So
See, a lot of times we don't know that we are something until we're told that we are something.
exactly.
A whole other.
Yeah. And so now I have another little one now too. I have a little boy now. So I have 2 girls and a boy. So 3 kids, told that I would never get pregnant naturally on my own, that the the medical world was the only way, and removing body parts was the only way for it to successfully happen. I was told that my babies weren't viable, and life is different.
I don't know why sometimes they trigger these things, but I think like TV shows sometimes can actually get us talking about stuff we wouldn't normally talk about. And I always thought that was a good episode of Friends. I don't know if you guys watched Friends, but where Monica and Chandler were struggling to have a baby. And the doctor told her, and this goes to your point about labeling stuff, that she had an inhospitable environment. But it was funny what he said. She said, well, what does that mean? And he said, that means that if my guys do get off the couch and because he had an issue too, if my guys get off the couch and make their way there, yours is gonna destroy any of them to try to make it through. That's the way he defined it. But the point is, it got couples talking about it. Because like my girlfriend and I went through a miscarriage, and the grieving process of that, nobody told us to prepare for that. But I think I talked about this before, Elise, on here, but we didn't know that was common. Like, nobody talks about it. So my girlfriend was like, what's wrong with me and all this kind of stuff. And then she starts, because your family sometimes will talk to you. So my mother started saying, well, I had 2 miscarriages. My grandmother's like, I had 2. And all of a sudden, everybody in her life had miscarriage. It was almost like nobody hadn't. And she went out with her girlfriends, and almost every one of them had them. But none of them had ever talked about it. So
and here's the thing, is that nobody talks about it, right? And nobody talks about infertility until one person decides, you know what, I'm going to be raw and open, and I'm going to tell the world that this is happening for me. And then everyone flocks. If your partner did not show up and say, I had a miscarriage, if you guys weren't open about that, she would have had to struggle and deal with that all on her own, because that's what the world does. Nobody talks about this stuff. And so talking about it opens up the door for everybody else to start to heal those ancestral roots of like, this is going on for ages. And so let's start talking about it. Let's quit shaming it. And maybe this goes to like a point that we were saying before that last question that you asked me, is that, you're talking about alcoholism and how, people don't understand it. Maybe rather than everyone having to understand every disorder or imbalance in the body, we just need to like prescribe everyone. So this is my prescription for everybody in the world right now.
Okay, this is her mind seed, everybody.
Mind seed. Everyone's getting a prescription from me, and it is self-compassion or compassion to others. You don't need to know their stuff. You don't need to know every detail. All you need to know is that you don't need to know, but you need to show up and be compassionate.
I love it. I love it. Everybody's doing the best they can with where they are and what they know. And that's all you need to know.
And can you imagine if we all just showed up compassionately for one another, even though we may not understand their story, how much healing would happen?
See, here's what I get to experience. And this is a gift that I want to share with you and everyone who's watching and will be watching. We were sitting around the campfire. So we have this beautiful retreat here. And we haven't had retreats yet, but we call it an everyday retreat because you get to come here and retreat from your everyday, and we welcome you home. And so there's so many stories that I can share, but we're sitting around the campfire the other night, and I'm having a conversation with yet another amazing, beautiful guest, and her 2 kids were here with her, and we're sitting around the fire, and she's reading tarot cards for our other guests that are here, this younger 25 and 20-year-old couple, and it was just beautiful. And so she's like, I just love sitting here and having this conversation with you, and there's not enough people that have these conversations and all this kind of stuff. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a biannual event, and I'm going to invite every single person that came to stay here at Manatee Landing Retreat to this weekend event so you can all meet each other, because you're all are amazing and awesome. And I get to meet every one of you and have all these incredible conversations and see the beauty and light in this world brighter than anything. But y'all don't know each other because you're showing up. Maybe you'll meet like 4 of our other guests in our other suites. But if you all come together, the hundreds of you that come and share your time here with us, we're going to realize that this world is full of beauty. And it's the same thing with what you talked about with your mom, Corey, is that what was the prescription? Don't watch the news and the media. It's the same industry. They're together. It's the medical industry. That's the repair shop. And it's the media industry that's making us think that we're totally effed up. And it's not, I'm telling you, we've traveled for 2 years on the road, my fiance and I. We have been all over, Canada included, and I have experienced only the most amazing people. We have opened up here December 9th. We started having guests on Christmas. Every single human being that has put foot here, no age, walk, language, life, is amazing. So stop listening to anyone who says anything different and have our own experiences. Until you have a face-to-face, don't talk about anyone. Till you have had the experience yourself, don't believe anything that somebody else said, because that's their perspective coming from their reality, and it's none of your business. But we get caught up in it, and the theys and the them. If you haven't met they and them,
I have to ask, I'm going to ask Kate this one other question, and then we'll just ask you how we can learn more. But I want to ask you this question since we're on this topic, and it popped into my head as well. There's a reason why. But when we talked about the miscarriage thing, as an example, I just thought back to what people told us. So here's what we were told as a couple trying to have our first child. We were told, don't tell anybody till it's past 12 weeks. Because if you lose the baby, then you'll have to explain it. But isn't that what we're talking about? Isn't that part of the systematic issue that if you're told, don't tell anybody, that means go it alone, doesn't it? Don't tell a soul so that you guys can go it alone and don't have to talk to anybody about it. To me,
but what if you were excited and told them the day, and now you're living in a vibration of excitement and happiness and joy and you're whatever is hospitable.
But
it's more hospitable.
But even if you lost the child, that's the point, though, right? If you
maybe the chances of losing the child are far less when you're excited and you can share the joy, because now you're in a very healing vibration and you're actually creating a space and a frequency of hype. But now you're living in fear, and I can't tell anyone, and oh my God, and the being is like, really, this is kind of like creepy in here.
Maybe
like,
I don't
know. It's not very friendly. Like, doesn't seem very happy. I'm gonna like hang out in here for 9 months.
No, I agree completely. And I guess my point was that if you told people you're going to raise your vibration and feel better and have better chance, but if something happened, worst case scenario, you didn't, at least now you have people that can embrace you. And
but it doesn't take away the joy that you had.
No, that's my point. Anyway, I don't know.
Right, but Kate, what's your opinion? We're like talking over her.
Right?
Literally over her.
This is like the essence of my story as I tell women that are going through the fertility journey, because we went through 3 losses, 3 ectopic pregnancies. First one resulted in an emergency surgery because I was about to rupture, which I lost not only the baby, but the tube. The second tube, they caught early enough because they wanted to catch it. They wanted to monitor me as soon as I found out, and were able to terminate with medicine. So after 3, and the third one, to this day, I'm still convinced I was fine, but I relied too much on somebody else, an authority figure outside of myself, to say that it wasn't viable. And to this day, I really do feel like that it was a wrong call. But I remember I called my acupuncturist and I was like, what do I do? Like, I feel like I'm up against a wall because they're challenging me. I'm trying to stay strong. I really believe. And his advice to me was, let's do what we need to maintain the tube, just to be on the safe side. And let's power even harder at healing your body. And I was like, all right, I'm trusting the journey. But when we got pregnant the 4th time now, I remember my husband saying, we can't tell anybody. But we hadn't told anybody for the 3 beforehand. In fact, after I went for surgery, I went to work the next day. I just pretended like I had a flu for a day, which is why I had to go off. But I was in surgery. Like, this is how bizarre it was in my head that I had to hide my story because I couldn't hold space for other people, because I couldn't hold space for them to feel uncomfortable, which is really it's pathetic. Well, it's not pathetic. It's gross. Like, I shouldn't have to hold space. You should have to hold space for me and let me feel what I need to feel and tell my story. So when we got pregnant the 4th time, I told my husband, I can't keep this a secret. Like, as soon as we know, like, I have to tell everyone. I have to tell friends. I have to tell family. And he was like, you know, that feels good for you, but it feels really gross for me. Like, I don't feel comfortable. And I was like, well, you know what? My friends are my friends. And because we met when we were 30, right? So like, our friends we're starting to cross over, but for the most part, our friend groups were separate. He's like, I just feel better if I don't tell my friends or my family until 10 weeks. And I was like, that's cool, but I can't do that because I need to feel joy. I need to feel like this experience is different. And I need to know that when I go for that ultrasound, that I have the power of people behind me, that if I get bad news again, I don't go through this by myself again. I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Because that's how intense it was. Like, here's the thing. My 3rd loss that I had, that 3rd ectopic, it was 5 days before my wedding. And so I had to go to my wedding and pretend like everything was okay. I was high on drugs because I was in so much pain that I wasn't drinking at my wedding. I had a smile on my face and pretended everything was okay. And it wasn't. And so like,
you have another wedding.
I know. So the 4th one, I was like, no, like, I need to feel joy. And if it's bad news, I need people to support me. The second element to that was I was not going for an ultrasound. They always want to do it at 6 weeks. I was like, no, I'm not going for an ultrasound till at least 9 or 10 weeks because I need to hear that heartbeat. And I did. I waited until 9.5 weeks, which was against the advice of my midwife, against the advice of my medical team. But I was like, listen, if I lose the tube, I lose the tube. I don't care, but I'm going to stay in this positive frame of mind that this is different because I truly believe it will be.
And you owned it.
I owned it. I didn't have any room in my body for doubt. And I 100% showed up for myself emotionally and energetically. And I owned it that I needed support if I was going to have bad news.
So what's her name?
Malia.
Malia.
Mm-hmm.
And
does it mean something like powerful magic?
I
I like it though. It's a nice name.
It's a Hawaiian name, so maybe that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to Google it right now.
So it sounds like that was the one thing. It sounds like from what I heard there, and I'm assuming. So correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like that was your most positive pregnancy experience.
Oh, by far, yes, because it changed the trajectory of how I showed up for myself for the rest of my life. You know, my daughter's 7 now, so for 8 years now, I show up day after day differently in my experience. It is what probably allowed my middle child, Quinn, to thrive in the NICU because there was no room for doubt. Because let me tell you, I was in the NICU for 2 weeks, and for 2 weeks, I had people telling me that it wasn't possible, that this wasn't going to work. And it wasn't okay with me. And the nursing staff struggled a bit with me being so like, no, this is the way we're doing it, and I don't care what you think, versus the doctors. The doctors, I think I was really lucky with some of the doctors that I had because I was adamant that if I was at that hospital, she was on my chest doing skin to skin. She needed to feel me and know that I was there. And so we did skin to skin probably 24 hours a day. Like if I couldn't be there, my husband was there. If he couldn't be there, his sister was there. Like we had family rotating. So that child was on someone's skin the whole time. And like, even when they were like, she has jaundice, she needs to be in the incubator, I was like, get the IV blanket or whatever they call the blanket. That's supposed to be for 34 weeks and older. And I was like, no, she'll be fine. It's on me. I can feel the weight. She'll be fine, but she's not coming off my skin. And we were released 2 weeks. So,
you know what? I have to say, what's amazing about that is whenever I was growing up, when we were growing up, I guess I'll say in general, there wasn't even a thing known as skin to skin, really. Like my mother doesn't remember that term, and my grandfather would never have heard that term. And it's so amazing, like both of the birth of both of my kids, that was like the first, and this is the doctors and the nurses. The first thing they were like, we got to do skin to skin. And so I will say, it was good to see that come that far along. Like, no joke, my mother, and if she's on here, she'll comment and validate this. They were going down the hall to have a smoke while they're in the hospital for pregnancy. Like that's how different it was then versus now. And I'm not saying judging whether what was right or wrong. It's just the way things are done. But you think about the distance between going down the hall while you're still pregnant for the kid, having a smoke in the smoke room versus doing skin to skin. That's we've come. I mean, and I won't say everything's come that far.
It just goes to show that we're so, what would you call it? We're so flexible as human beings.
And we're so connected.
Hmm.
My energy, I really truly believe, is what helped my daughter thrive. Like, we were connected.
Oh,
I
totally
you were-
agree with you.
You were the battery.
Yeah.
You were the battery that kept her charging her. I
Well,
love it.
that's a good analogy on the repair side of things. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
There's been themes today, and I think our theme for our call, part of the theme was around the repair side and mechanics. And I don't know how that comes into everything we're talking about, but it works. So, Kate, Elise, this has been an absolute pleasure.
We never found out how to reach her.
Yes. Okay. Good point, Elise.
Thank you.
Everything's been right off the rails today.
Ooh, sorry.
But I have like a hard stop soon, so I'm just like now.
I know I need to jump. I'm at 3:00, but I like you so much. I want to stay on, but I want to know how to get in touch with you because I'm gonna just send you a friend request. But how to find out more about you?
So I have a website. It's called sherevival.com. She has 2 E's because it stands for Sacred Healing Through Empowerment and Embodiment. So 2 E's, not spelled through traditional. It's not a gender thing. And then on Facebook, once again, at She Revival. That's the Facebook page for my business site. You can also just friend me as Kate Nguy, or however you want to pronounce my last name.
Right. Make it up.
And then on Instagram, I'm Fertility Coach Kate. So you can find me there as well.
Perfect. And again, I'm going to ask you if you can go on to the Facebook, the Blue Tux Facebook group, the Flip Your Script Facebook group, and just put in your comments your contact information for those who use that social media platform to watch the replay. That would
For
be
sure.
great.
We'll definitely do so. Thank you so much, everyone. This was great.
I know. Yes. That was a great finale. Good job, Corey.
Oh, good job to you both. And hopefully we didn't keep you too long, Kate, because I know we're a little off the rails here, but.
My husband's home taking care of the 3 kids right now. So I feel like I should be in here for a few hours. Like, this is heaven. They're all quiet in the basement.
and Elise didn't know we had a 4th guest today. So we do tomorrow too.
I've been so in the present moment with all of my things happening here and all that stuff. I'm like, all I know is that I'm going to be present at 12:00 Eastern. And
see what happens.
I did. I showed up. So tomorrow I'm going to show up again, 12:00 Eastern, right?
Yes.
Thank you for taking the reins on the, letting people know and all that.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you both for showing up. I appreciate you both. I'm doing the close with both of you at the same time. Sometimes Elise and I will do it after the fact. But thank you so much, Kate, for joining us. Thank you, Elise, for being here and so present, as you mentioned. Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. And yes, we'll be here at the same time tomorrow, 12 Eastern. Hopefully creating more magic. I'm sure we will. And Kate, thank you for bringing a topic that we haven't ever discussed.
I
here.
know this is new good stuff, and I'm so excited to have a little chit chat.
Yeah. I'll let you both connect after this. But thank you so much, Kate. Thank you, Elise. Thank you, everybody. And Corey signing out.
See you tomorrow, everybody. Bye.
See everybody.